Chapter 2130. With the return of the Celestial Court's army, they would be an unstoppable army. The Celestial World and the Dark World have been fighting for thousands of years. The two ancient worlds had suffered heavy casualties, and the Celestial World was exhausted. Although they wanted to destroy the Dark World the most, they knew that it would be difficult. Once they started fighting, the Celestial World might attack them secretly. Kill, kill, kill. Endless soldiers roared as they swallowed the moon, their formation terrifying to the heavens. Millions upon millions of soldiers charged madly along the way. Although most of the soldiers had just returned from the vile earth and were exhausted, their aura was too fierce. The army crushed everything along the way. The bloody battlefield was about to explode. Gods would be killed. Ancestor God Tian Li and the other side. There was nothing they could do. The three emperor clans were definitely defeated. The Dark World's ancestor gods could only choose to retreat. Their hearts were heavy. There were too many variables. No one expected the Celestial Court's army to really return. They even returned after the Celestial World and Dark World had suffered heavy losses. A tripartite balance of power was about to form. Let them fight. Dogs bite each other. This is good. We can also reap the benefits. In fact, Ancestor God Tian Li and the others were not worried. In fact, they wanted the Celestial Court to fight with the Celestial World. If the Celestial World really reached the end, they would definitely fight back. When that day came, the Celestial World might be like the human world. They would be crippled, just in case. Ancestor God Tian Hun said coldly, "Immediately send orders to the major clans to build the three-realm battlefield and reinforce the battlefield. No matter how big the war is in the future, we have to ensure that the core of the three-realm is firmly in our hands." The Dark World's army retreated. The Space-Time Emperor and Purple Chelan discussed. Suddenly, they really attacked the Celestial World. The Space-Time Emperor felt that the Celestial World had the strength to fight for them. Their biggest enemy in the future was the Dark World. The Celestial World had a group of giants who had blood feuds with the Dark World. If they could fight for them, they could further strengthen the Celestial Court. After all, the Celestial Court had grudges with the three Emperor clans, but not with the major clans of the Celestial World. Su Yin ascended to the Celestial World and became an emperor. Other than the three Emperor clans, the other clans did not participate. "We are worried that they will just watch." Purple Chelan whispered. It naturally did not trust the major clans of the Celestial World. As long as the three Dark clans are defeated, they will definitely participate. The Space-Time Monarch looked at the big picture and said coldly, "The facts are right in front of us. We have to fight for the strength of the Celestial Realm. Otherwise, if a war breaks out and the Celestial Realm is destroyed, neither side will have a good ending." The Sword Ancestor ascended to the Celestial Realm and walked towards the Xian people. The gathering of four giants was too powerful. These were not the three strongest giants who had declined. In their heyday, any one of them had the battle prowess to contend with a Grand Ancestor. It's the Sword Ancestor, the Sword Ancestor of the mortal world. Someone roared in a low voice, staring at a man in black robes. He had a golden sword core on his back, and his figure exuded an aura that could slaughter 10,000 immortals. The Sword Ancestor actually recovered. This was one of the most terrifying giants of the mortal realm, terrifying to the extreme. He used to be a giant who could look down on the three realms. Four great experts joining hands. This type of situation was incomparable. The entire world was in heated discussion, and the experts of various great sects found it difficult to calm down. If the three Dark clans can't hold on, would they attack the immortal domain? They shouldn't, right? The Celestial Court has enmity with the three Dark clans, but they have no enmity with us. Moreover, the Dark World is watching covetously. The Celestial Court won't send troops to the entire immortal domain. When the time comes, both sides will suffer, and the Dark World will benefit. Everyone knew that there was a blood feud between the three Dark clans. Since the three Dark clans didn't destroy the mortal realm, they would have to bear their anger. Boom! The snow-white and translucent bone club was surrounded by millions of fierce lights. There were countless fierce imprints on this huge bone club. They were all the enemies that the big brother had killed. The toughest bones in their bodies were refined into the huge bone club. Once this murderous weapon was used, its ferocious power split the sky, tore the heavens, and penetrated the universe. Kill! The big brother roared angrily, and his gray hair fluttered wildly. The huge bone club smashed onto the Cien people's ancestral land with a rumble, triggering a frenzy of energy. Immortal Clan's ancestral land began to tremble, producing a few cracks. Even through the backing and the protective divine light, there were still a few clansmen who cried out miserably, their bodies breaking apart into pieces, bursting into an expanse of bloody light. What? The old monster of the clan shouted. Defend with all your strength and protect the foundation. Wait for the strongest Thearch of our clan to recover. The two strongest Thearchs had recovered to a critical juncture. They had swallowed the shocking secret medicine. Given some time, they would be able to unleash some of their peak combat strength. Stop them. In the Cien people's ancestral land, a series of experts erupted, releasing the vast source of life in their bodies. It penetrated the foundation of the ancestral land, forming a defensive world. The sky was filled with great Tao immortal patterns. The slumbering, killing weapons were awakened at the same time, causing the foundation to soar. The guardian divine light blazed like an eternal celestial realm that had descended to the peak of the celestial world. It was burning and illuminating the sea of stars. With the threat of extinction looming, this clan seemed to be extremely crazy. All kinds of foundation were awakened, and the huge bone club shook violently. Suppress! The Black King roared. He opened his mouth and spat out the Black King cauldron. This cauldron was also quite impressive. Countless visions of the destruction of a universe were released from the dark cauldron. Boom! The cauldron exploded. The cauldron's body appeared to fill the sky with historical stars. It operated in an extreme state and suddenly swept toward the Cien people's ancestral land. The cauldron was terrifying. As the huge cauldron seized the fortune of heaven and earth, rolling black reincarnation flames rolled down, burning toward the Cien people's world. Dong! The sacred Pure Land burned with flames. All kinds of terrifying substances flowed into the abyss of the ancestral land, causing it to tremble and wail as if it was about to explode. At the same time, the Snow-White Bone Club smashed down from the sky. The two supreme treasures attacked together. This was the power to destroy the world. The ancestral land rumbled, and countless great Tao symbols were annihilated. Slash! The Sword Master slashed out with the celestial slaying sword. The sky split open, and the sword slashed the epic. Even with the foundation and the various killing weapons, this sword was so powerful that it appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Many experts were about to be beheaded. The three giants attacked like lightning. Their combat strength was heaven-defying. The Cien people's ancestral land trembled under the pressure. More and more cracks appeared. Roar! In an instant, the two most powerful great emperors roared. Their bodies were like gods of war, overlooking the 9 heavens and 10 earths. They spat out their vital essence, sprinkling the order of the supreme law into the Cien people's world. The whole world lit up in darkness. The Cien people's experts cheered. The most powerful great emperors were indeed incomparably powerful. They were of great help in protecting the foundation of the race. Open for me. Suyan's black hair danced wildly. His essence, energy, and spirit pierced through the universe. His aura was too ferocious. Destroying the world was the most powerful weapon. The axe was huge and extremely sharp. Its cutting power was frightening. The Black King was shocked. How did this kid end his billions of years of slumber? Where did he get this supreme, true treasure? What kind of axe was this? Wasn't it a little too sharp? This thing emitted an extremely ferocious aura. It was like an extremely ferocious weapon formed by absorbing the most ferocious energy in the 3 realms. The huge axe cut a huge crack in the ancestral land of the Cien people. What a terrifying weapon! The big brother was astonished. He gazed at the huge axe. This thing was quite impressive. He felt that it was not any weaker than the 10,000-world cauldron. Who had forged this? Of course, Su Yan was not yet qualified to unleash the ultimate power of the huge axe. The big brother could sense that the huge axe contained an extremely ferocious aura. Once it was awakened, it would be the awakening of a supreme, true treasure that would shake the three realms. Kill! Su Yan roared. The axe light split the sky. It cut open a corner of the ancestral land world. How is this possible? The two most powerful great emperors roared. Even as powerful as they stood in the ancestral land world, their bodies felt like they were about to collapse. What kind of weapon was this? It was unheard of, especially for the Xian people's experts. This weapon was nurtured by the celestial world and was obtained by Su Yan. But they never thought that Su Yan, who was standing at the peak of the great emperor realm, could release the destroying world axe and tear open a corner of the ancestral land. Apu, a part of the ancestral land world collapsed. A large number of experts died. Palaces collapsed. Countless mountain peaks shattered. The ancestral land began to bleed. A corner of the world was destroyed. No! The Xian people cried out in despair. The big brother, the Black King, and the Sword Ancestor, the three great experts, erupted in an instant. They suppressed all the power of the Xian people. This part of the world trembled violently. Moreover, their power flowed along the broken foundation and into the ancestral land world. Bastard! The two most powerful great emperors were furious. They held their weapons and blocked the broken air. At the same time, they said mournfully, "Does the heavens want to destroy the Xian people?" Su Yan wielded the destroying world axe. His sharpness was peerless. Open again! Su Yan roared. The world-exterminating battle axe burned. The huge axe light and terrifying strength opened up a huge gap in another space-time node. Just like that, the Xian people's ancestral land appeared one after another. Blood flowed endlessly in the ancestral land. The important figures were falling. Roar! In the ancestral court, roars of grief and indignation resounded. The two most powerful great emperors rushed out. Although their chi and blood had declined, they were awakened in an instant. They were like two ancient suns, filled with the strongest aura of life. They caused the incomplete ancestral land world of the Xian people to rumble. The big brother snorted. Golden holy light burned between his eyebrows. His primordial spirit erupted, emitting a terrifying, devouring power. It was like a huge black outline that covered the entire ancestral land world. As the big brother breathed, the entire ancestral land's space-time started to dim endlessly. Immeasurable essence leaked out and rushed into the sky. It turned into the Milky Way and fell from the sky. He used the stealing heaven technique to steal the life essence of the ancestral land. This secret technique could even steal the origin of the celestial world. It was like the hand of fate had grabbed the ancestral land of the Xian people. Countless cultivators withered and fell to the ground silently. Su Yan's chest was also howling. He used the stealing heaven technique to steal the great treasures of the Xian people. Under the joint efforts of the two giants, the Xian people were on the decline. It was like the great destiny technique was working here. It could even steal the treasures of the heavens. There's nothing we can do. In the ancestral land of the Celestials, a large number of powerhouses sighed. The Xian people's foundation was not as powerful as it was in their heyday. The group of powerhouses was full of hatred. If the master of the Celestial Court hadn't destroyed the strongest foundation of the two clans, the big brother alone wouldn't have been able to lift their foundation world. It was too late to say anything now. The third patriarch roared, tears of blood flowing out of his eyes. He was full of hatred and regret. If he hadn't continued to target the Celestial Court, they wouldn't have fallen into this situation. The second patriarch wouldn't have died, and the Xian people wouldn't have suffered such a disaster. Leave a way out. The master of the Celestial Court had left them a way out, but they wanted to kill them all. In the end, the ancestral land of the Xian people couldn't take it anymore. A huge amount of essence leaked out. The four giants bathed in it, and stood in their heyday at all times. In the end, the four giants joined forces and opened the great world of the Cien people. Run! Countless people fled. The third patriarch had already given up on the Cien people. They couldn't hold on anymore. The glory of the Emperor race had collapsed. They would probably become the history of the celestial world. If they didn't leave now, they would all die. Leave no one alive, the Black King said coldly. He threw out the Black King cauldron and sealed the land. He wouldn't let any of the Cien people escape. Chapter 21:31. The world was shocked by this battle. The Reincarnation Emperor family was wiped out, and their ancestral land was barren. Those who survived were just ghosts. Now, the strongest ancestral land of the Cien people had been breached, and the four giants of the human world were here. The Cien people have been breached. The Reincarnation Emperor family is gone, and so are the Cien people. Only one of the three Emperor families is left. The whole world was shaken, and a terrifying wave was triggered. The alien battlefield was completely defeated. They were the private armies of the three Emperor families, and their losses were too great. The Cien people's three ancestors could only hide in the world of the celestial race's ancestral land. This was ridiculous. In the vast land of the celestial world, the various Emperor families and all the other races were terrified. The Cien people had been breached, and the world was bleeding, indicating that a great calamity was about to happen. Woo-woo. The heavens seemed to be crying, and the cold wind was howling. The drifting rain of blood tore through the sky and rolled toward the alien world. This scene was too terrifying. The world was red, and blood was boiling. Corpses fell from the sky. APU. In the world of the Cien people, huge bloody holes appeared one after another, and screams were heard. The people in the outside world were shocked. The Cien people were completely finished, and there was no hope. The four giants stood in the north, south, east, and west, wielding great killing weapons. Blood flowed along the way, and the entire ancestral land was trembling. From this moment on, the reputation of the three Emperor families was completely destroyed. The three Emperor families, whose status was comparable to the master of the celestial world, had lost their strongest foundation tens of millions of years ago. Now, they were just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. This was too great a shock to the major races in the celestial world. Su Yin had entered the ranks of the supreme giants, and he wielded the world-destroying axe. He killed wildly along the way, and corpses flew everywhere. Su Yan's eyes shot out cold lightning. He was even more terrifying than the Demon Lord. With boundless ferocity, he roared and exploded the enemies in the sky. This was Su Yin thousands of years ago, the Zong immortal emperor who was almost killed by him. Today, Su Yin was slaughtering the Cien people in all directions and sacrificing the heroes of the Cien people. Blood flowed endlessly from the giant axe he wielded, revealing a peerless edge as he massacred the Cien people. The Cien people should be destroyed. Su Yin roared out, his disheveled black hair flying about chaotically, eyes blazing with killing intent, slaughtering his way toward the declining most powerful emperor. For the current Su Yin, who was already a peerless emperor, he was not afraid of an old and frail, strongest emperor. The two strongest monarchs of the Cien people would have stood out to command the world if they hadn't declined so badly. Junior, hand over your life. The most powerful emperor expert's eyes were blood red, releasing heaven-rushing divine light, sweeping through the boundless time and space, carrying out a life or death battle. After all, they didn't have a path of retreat at all, only able to fight to the death. Kill! Su Yin roared. His chi and blood boiled, and his black hair danced in the wind. He brandished his fist and charged forward. This strike was heavy and ferocious. It collided with the declining big shot, causing rivers and mountains to crumble. Countless Cien people were killed along with it, and large batches of them fell into pools of blood. In the dilapidated ancestral land of the Cien people, a great clash of the peak unfolded. Su Yan's roar shook the rivers and mountains. His divine power was boundless, and he walked towards the peerless emperor realm. With a raise of his hand, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. He unleashed unparalleled combat strength and attacked the most powerful emperor expert of the Xian people. The great Tao of the nine heavens was disintegrating. At this moment, Su Yin didn't even use world destruction. He wanted to use the most powerful emperor expert of the Xian people to train himself. Roar! The old big shot roared in grief. His glabella emitted the light of his primordial spirit. His body blended with the environment of heaven and earth. In an instant, his supernatural power was boundless. He pushed his palms forward, as if he was pushing a grand historical space-time that swept across the world. Even someone as powerful as Su Yin felt suffocated and uncomfortable. However, his combat strength was too domineering. The arch suppression art was activated, and he resisted the suppression of the environment. As expected of a heavenly embryo, if he's given some more time to accumulate, he'll reach the peak of the peerless emperor realm. I reckon he'll be able to fight the most powerful emperor expert head-on. The Black King came to hold the line. This old big shot's primordial spirit was very weak. Hence, even at his peak combat strength, it was extremely difficult for him to control too much of the environment's power. Of course, this was also a bloody battle for Su Yin. His fists drew blood, and he fought until he went berserk. The order of the heaven-opening scripture bloomed. It was practically rewriting the order of the environment that the old big shot had deduced. It forcefully opened a path and charged towards his main body. In this battle, 5,000 people were killed. Su Yin's body was covered in wounds, and he was bathed in blood. In the end, he relied on his own combat strength to kill the most powerful emperor expert of the Xian people. Defeated, our race has been defeated. The rivers and mountains were destroyed, and the ground was bleeding. The tragic world was filled with broken bones and corpses. Everywhere was riddled with holes. The most powerful emperor expert of the declining race was killed by Su Yin. This indicated great fear. The Xian people lost their fighting spirit. As for the other declining emperor expert, he was directly killed by the big brother with 3 punches. The 3 strongest emperors of the Xian people, other than the Xian people's 3 ancestors who were hiding in the Xian people's ancestral land. The rest of the emperors were all dead. The dense bloodlight drowned the 9 heavens and surged towards the space beyond the heavens. It dyed the land beyond the heavens with blood. The peak monarch race was eliminated, and great fortune was collapsing. The Xian people are dead, and so is the reincarnation emperor race. There's only one celestial race left. From now on, the 3 emperor clans will be a thing of the past. Su Yan's expression was cold. He swallowed the essence of heaven and earth to heal his injuries. Su Yin stood in the bleeding space and looked at the blood-colored celestial world that was getting heavier and heavier. Su Yan's path had not reached its limit. His Tao technique had not been perfected. He had to merge with the environment of the celestial world. Only then could he stimulate the strongest potential of the black and white qi and even establish Su Yan's path in one fell swoop. Of course, Su Yin was not in a hurry. He had just become a peerless emperor. He needed a lot of time to stabilize and accumulate. The 3rd ancestor hid in the celestial race. His eyes were blood red as he roared at the sky. It's over. My race is gone. The 3rd ancestor was incomparably sad. What could he do? He could only hide in the celestial race and save his life. Once he left here, he would definitely be beaten to death. The Xian people had fallen, their ancestral land had collapsed, and their clansmen had died. No one could fight their way out alive. The celestial court would not let any of them go. Rumble. Rolling blood swept through the ruined mountains and rivers. In the world of corpses and blood, the Black King roared angrily. The Xian people and a group of emperors had a premonition that they could not survive, so they destroyed a large number of their treasuries. The Xian people's foundation was very deep. It was even more shocking than the reincarnation emperor race. More than half of their treasuries had been destroyed. This made Blackie's heart ache so much that he almost cried. However, their gains were also shocking. There were a large number of rare treasures left in the ancestral court. Even emperors would find it difficult to destroy them. There were even two springs of the celestial world. In the future, they would be the strongest foundation to rebuild the celestial court. Of course, the most important thing was that the Black King had swallowed 6 of the most powerful treasures with his divine furnace. This was a great fortune. We're rich. The Black King cried out loudly and grimaced in pain. The harvest this time was already quite astonishing. The Cien people's accumulation was boundless. Although more than half of their treasuries had been destroyed, the most important resources were preserved. Blackie was very clear that in the era when the Celestial Court's foundation was the strongest, there was also a limited number of rare treasures. However, the treasuries of the Cien people were of the highest level. One had to know that in addition to what Su Yin had obtained from the reincarnation ancestral land, the value was already comparable to the ultimate treasuries of the Celestial Court in its strongest era. 3 Emperor clans. You didn't expect that 2 of the Emperor clans would be directly eliminated today, right? What a joke. It seems that the 3 Emperor clans' fate has been exhausted. The Sword Ancestor suddenly sneered. This was the Celestial World. The place where they were was the ancestral land of one of the 3 Emperor clans. It was equivalent to digging out the great treasures of the Celestial World. These resources were too important. After all, this clan had existed for countless years. Some resources could not be bought with money. In fact, if the 3 Emperor clans had not joined forces with the Dark World to attack the human world, the 3 Emperor weapons would not have been in the 3 realms. It was almost impossible to have the battle results now. The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear. The Sword Ancestor had mixed feelings. Billions of years ago, the human world was destroyed, and the core of the human world was directly crippled. The battle back then was many times more terrifying than this. Boom! Su Yin used his giant axe to cut open a deeply hidden treasure trove world and dug out a large treasure trove. The Sword Ancestor sighed in amazement. The Cien people, who had accumulated for countless years, really had a frightening foundation. Incredible. What a great Cien people. After countless years of accumulation, there is even a batch of heavenly books nurtured by heaven and earth. Su Yin could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was the treasure trove world that stored scriptures. There were at least billions of scriptures inside. There were countless divine abilities, countless heavenly arts, all kinds of secret techniques, and all kinds of heavenly books. One after another, great divine abilities were all in the treasure trove. This scene was really spectacular. These scriptures were the most important foundation for the development of the Cien people. In the future, they would become the inheritance of the Celestial Court. Call Master. On this day, a low roar was transmitted from the Celestial World. The people in the outside world trembled. These words contained a terrifying deterrent power. Boom! It was very obvious that something huge had happened in the celestial ancestral land. Overflowing bloody light rushed up and shattered the outerverse. This space-time was simply cut off. Densely packed symbols of the great Tao were released, penetrating the 9 heavens and extending into the long river outside the realm. An unfathomable long river of time was opened up. The old monsters of various races trembled. This long river of time was too frightening. It was steaming with the luster of order that had accumulated for billions of years. It was accompanied by a grand rain of time that seemed to bombard their hearts. The great ancestor took out a stick of incense. This was refined with his master's blood and could be considered a terrifying treasure. Once activated, it could suppress and kill powerful enemies. In front of the stick of incense, a stone statue of the primogenitor was enshrined. Although it looked very crude, the aura it emitted was too oppressive. Even the monarch bigwigs were trembling. They felt that a great disaster was about to befall them. They felt that this stone statue was about to reincarnate. The entire celestial race was excited. This was their race's ultimate trump card. Burn incense and pray. Call Master Celestial Emperor. The great ancestor roared. He was not prepared to wait any longer. Once this battle ended, the reputation of the 3 Emperor clans would be greatly damaged. The entire world would no longer respect the three emperor clans. The moment the golden incense was lit, with a boom, golden mist surged, and the great Tao exploded. The momentum was too terrifying. It was as if it had turned into an immortal sword that tore apart the great world. It was to the extent that this incense mist was accompanied by a terrifying summoning power. It rushed towards the long river of time that had been opened and wanted to call the celestial emperor back. At the apex, chapter 21:32, the mysterious prayers of the heavens turned into a torrent of energy. The chanting caused the clan's chi image to instantly awaken. Groups of clansmen knelt on the ground, cutting their wrists and dripping blood. They paid their respects, releasing terrifying power of faith, loudly calling out to the ancestral heavenly emperor. Within the great world of the bleeding Xian people, the big brother's divine eyes were like lightning as he gazed towards the celestial race, attentively watching the opening of a long river of time. Su Yan's expression was solemn. Should he go and stop them? He caught the aura of the vast river of time and space, as well as the majestic waves of chanting. The sound of prayer shook the heavens and moved the gods. It was too shocking. In your dreams, Black King snorted in disdain. Seems like our calculations are correct. The expert behind them is in the deepest part of the burial Emperor Rotten Earth. Trying to open a path back with just one incense stick's worth of time is just wishful thinking. The burial Emperor Vile Earth was terrifying beyond compare in the history of Tao Celestial Emperor's disappearance. The Celestial Court also used a special method to summon the Tao Celestial Emperor, but they all failed. The Celestial race wanted to rely on an incense stick of time to summon their ancestor back. It was just a dream. Rumble. The movements of the Tian clan were too great. The blood of their clansmen flowed all over the mountains and rivers, gathering towards the rough and blurry ancestral stone statue. This stone statue was dyed in blood, emitting a demonic luster. The ancestral blood shone brightly. This statue, faintly trembling, as if it was going to stand up, as if it was going to revive and become a body of flesh and blood. The Celestial Clan's experts roared out in excitement. They felt like the ancestral statue produced an irregular scene, releasing a powerful reaction. They could vaguely sense an aura that crossed the river of history, about to suppress this world. The golden incense flames burned fiercely, becoming more and more intense. It was as if an ancient great sun was burning, turning into a divine lamp, opening up a path of return for the primogenitor. However, just as the incense burned intensely, waves of terrifying fluctuations swept over, causing the incense flames to flutter, about to be extinguished. The Grand Ancestor's face was gloomy. What was stopping the primogenitor from returning? The incense flame refined from the blood of the primogenitor contained the supreme order of the laws. Now, there was a terrifying pressure that was about to extinguish the incense stick. What's that? The old antiques of various clans found it difficult to calm down. They could vaguely see that at the end of the long river of time above the Celestial Clan, there were some substances that appeared. They were extremely grand and vast, and even though they were extremely indistinct, they still swept out waves that carried a terrifying and endless aura. This scene caused an uproar in the immortal world. Was this the power behind the celestial race? They didn't exist within the three realms, but originated from the outside world. The waves that came howling from the ends of the long river of time were like great worlds drifting about. I see a terrifying existence that seems to be returning. Someone cried out in alarm. This was an indescribably great event. The time passage opened by the celestial rays produced an absurd reaction. How could it be extinguished? However, the third ancestor was alarmed. The incense stick was gradually being extinguished. The entire Tian clan was terrified and uneasy. Could it be that the ancestor was unable to return? The Grand Ancestor didn't dare to light the incense rashly. He had already burned a portion of it just now. Just now, there are already some clues. The three Emperor artifacts are returning, trying to ignite them. There is great hope for their return. The great ancestor spoke, calming down the chaotic Heaven clan. Although the long river of time was gradually blurring, he believed that the change just now was enough to suppress the great clans of the immortal world. He wanted to tell everyone in the immortal world that the three emperor clans hadn't been destroyed yet. They had a powerful master behind them. Once he walked out, he would call upon the immortal world and become the master of the immortal world. This was because when the incense stick was lit just now, fragrance appeared all over the immortal world. The commotion was too absurd. It was as if the great world of the immortal world was burning. The Cien people's third ancestor was in a terrible mood. If they didn't return, it was useless to say anything. The Cien people's rivers and mountains were ruined, and the earth was bleeding. In the end, their struggle was useless. Originally, they could have scared away the four giants of the celestial court, but in the end, they were unrestrained and carried out a bloody massacre. Large amounts of hidden treasuries were dug out, and the harvest was even more unimaginable. Su Yan had obtained a large pile of mother materials that could be used to prepare him to forge his life emperor weapon in the future. These materials were all precious materials that were hard to find in the world. I really want to loot the entire immortal world, Blackie said fiercely. The ancestral land had been swept clean, and a series of treasuries were emptied. Not a single feather was left. The sword ancestor searched inside and out several times, but he didn't find anything else and gave up. Big Brother held the big bone club and glared at him. I was just saying. Blackie laughed. He was just thinking about it and wouldn't do it. The three emperor clans are done for. It's only a matter of time before they are destroyed. Blackie gradually calmed down and thought secretly. He naturally had a long-term vision and was looking at the big picture. What they wanted was not a chaotic immortal world, but an immortal world that could cooperate with them to attack the dark world in the future. Powerful people like Big Brother could naturally see that there was a group of the strongest emperors in the immortal world. There were at least a dozen of them. This was a group of forces that the Celestial Court needed to fight for in the future. These people were naturally extremely powerful. Once they fought with the Black King and the others, both sides would suffer. Once they fought, the celestial race would benefit in the end. Once this battle started, they would smoothly form a powerful alliance to fight against the Celestial Court. This was what Blackie was most worried about. They couldn't use this opportunity to form a united front. In this battle, when Su Yan ascended to the immortal world and became an emperor, only the three emperor clans stopped him. From this, one could see their attitude. In short, to the Celestial Court, to the immortal world, they could fight at any time, but they could also stop at any time. This was the supreme confidence. The three emperor weapons have returned. Su Yan's eyes looked at the distant area. The Grand Ancestor and Second Ancestor used special methods to summon the three emperor weapons back to the immortal world. Boom! The entire space-time of the immortal world was overflowing with bloody light. The big stars in the outer realm exploded, and the entire space-time was replaced. For a moment, it was terrifying to the extreme. The immortal world's sects were shocked. The immortal world had completely changed. The bloody era had arrived. The three emperor weapons moved across the sky, causing the immortal world to shine. The endless great Tao of the immortal world became one and turned into the origin, revolving around the three emperor weapons. Heavens, how can these artifacts be so terrifying? The people trembled. The three emperor weapons had never been developed to such a level. From this moment on, the great Tao of the immortal world was bleeding, and the world was filled with een and darkness. It was as if the slumbering Lord of the immortal world was reviving, and the heavens were about to appear. The three emperor weapons were definitely left behind by the Lord of the immortal world. Boundless pressure rippled through the immortal world. Bloody light whistled, and a great divine might bloomed, causing the four seas to tremble. The people found it difficult to bear. They comprehended the supreme laws and understood the new environment that they had to follow. There were already countless creatures who knelt down in worship. Even the emperors were terrified, feeling that their lives didn't belong to them. Some people roared, resisting the urge to kneel. This was not the environment they wanted, and they didn't want their descendants to live in this kind of environment. The immortal world was so big, and there were so many races that it was impossible to count them all. It was really difficult for them to follow the will of the three emperor weapons, especially for the most powerful giants. After all, in their hearts, they respected themselves. The immortal world had completely changed, becoming a cold, blood-colored space-time. It was like a high and mighty lord looking down on all the creatures in the world. Big brother, you said that supreme, true treasures really can't be forged. Black King asked. The three emperor weapons could only be considered a semi-finished supreme, true treasure. Only when they were combined would they be a supreme, true treasure, which was equivalent to the celestial quartz cauldron of myriad worlds and Su Yan's mysterious giant axe that destroyed the world. Black King and the others had tried to forge supreme, true treasures before, and without exception, they had all failed. Big Brother's white bone cudgel and Big Black's black cauldron had both devoured countless immortal treasures. Unfortunately, their power was far from supreme, true treasures. Otherwise, Monkey King's immortal iron cudgel wouldn't have exploded. In fact, even if their weapons suddenly shattered, they could still be reforged. Even if they cooperated with Tao, Celestial Emperor's methods, it was still extremely difficult to forge supreme, true treasures. This meant that it was 10,000 times harder to forge them. Su Yan frowned. Big Brother and Black King, at their level, couldn't forge supreme, true treasures. Even with the cooperation of the Celestial Quartz Master, there wasn't much hope. At most, they could forge a semi-finished product. At this time, Su Yan took out the giant axe and let them look at it. Was this a natural supreme treasure? It's hard to say. Big Brother looked at the giant axe and frowned. The axe's power was undeniable. It contained the power to destroy a world. However, with Su Yan's strength, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to completely release the axe's power. However, this axe gave Big Brother an indescribable feeling, so he couldn't comment. Su Yan had doubts in his heart. Could the weapon that the first mountain had turned into be forged by a great being? What was the origin of the first mountain? One had to know that in the immortal world, no one knew about the revolving sky palm. Could it be that this inheritance came from outside the mysterious three realms? Boom! At this moment, the Grand Ancestor moved the three emperor weapons. Billions of ancient worlds resonated. Vaguely, the immortal world turned into a carrier of the great Tao. The environment interweaved, showing a huge shadow that seemed to run through the past, present, and future. What is that? Everyone shouted. A blurry shadow appeared from the time, walked out from the great Tao. It seemed to live in legends and history, filling heaven and earth, like the ancestor of heaven and earth. Su Yan's heart trembled. The three emperor weapons were indeed unparalleled in the world. However, in the process of operating the three emperor weapons, it consumed a huge amount of the immortal world's essence. This was an extremely heavy burden on the immortal world. Ignore it. Big Brother didn't plan to go to the Celestials. They had more important things to do. Once the four giants joined hands, where couldn't they go? They suddenly encountered the suppression of the immortal world's blood-colored environment. Su Yan directly tore it apart with the giant axe. The Grand Ancestor's face was ashen. They actually chose to withdraw. They didn't plan to target the Celestials' ancestral land at all. They left just like that, left. Bastard. They actually left. They were unwilling to accept this. They emitted bone-chilling cold air. Things were too bad. They were afraid of Su Yan. Su Yan could control the immortal world's environment at any time, turning into another immortal world's master. Therefore, the three emperor weapons had to operate for a long time in the following period. Immortal Emperor Zong, the boundless dignity of our three emperor clans has been destroyed in the hands of an ant. The third ancestor roared. Even if we use the three emperor weapons, we still can't kill them. Back then, he was just an ant. If he was crushed to death, there wouldn't be such a terrible situation now. The Grand Ancestor's face was gloomy. Crush Su Yan to death? The giant axe could directly break through the world wall and leave. Although the three Emperor weapons could revive and threaten them, it was easier said than done to kill them. Unless they got close to the Celestials and suppressed them with their peerless foundation, there was a chance of killing them. There are some things that should be settled. Su Yin brandished the World Destroyer, creating a beam of axe light. The axe light crossed millions of li like lightning, flying past one ancient world after another, releasing an extremely terrifying aura. It was an incomparably terrifying method. Su Yin slashed out a beam of axe light across 1,000,000 worlds, attacking the primordial god fiends. Chapter 21:33. This axe light swept past one ancient realm after another. Its speed was too fast. Wherever it passed, the ancient worlds would become resplendent, and the great Tao would be severed. It was as if the river of time was torn apart, ignoring time and rules as it crossed over at an unbelievable speed. Even if the arch weapons used their power to block and suppress it, it was still useless. After all, they were all supreme, true treasures and extremely terrifying weapons. The arch weapons wanted to use some power to destroy Su Yan's axe light, but it was difficult for them to do so. Immortal Zong, please show mercy, the primordial god fiend race wailed. They couldn't block it anymore. Su Yan wanted to kill them all. Back then, before the Monkey King and the others rebelled against the celestial world with the Phoenix King, the Monkey King's race was invaded by the primordial god fiend race. If the space-time emperor hadn't arrived in time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Su Yan had always remembered this debt. He would never forget it, nor would he let it go. Boom! This primordial world with a strong god fiend aura collapsed. An axe light rushed in, and the space-time of the ancestral land sank. A large number of experts' heads fell to the ground. Suddenly, the ancestral court was cut open. God fiends with terrifying auras withered and walked towards death. Blood spurted out of the ancestral land. Everywhere was riddled with holes, and meteorites fell from the sky. From then on, the primordial god fiend race lost all signs of life. The ancestral land became a land of death. The attack of a supreme, true treasure was too unimaginable. Without a strong foundation to protect the mountain gate, it was impossible to block it. Tens of thousands of races trembled. One strike to destroy an entire race. In the past, the Godfiend race and Su Yin didn't get along. Now, they were settling the karma. This made the experts of the various sects feel their hair stand on end. They were terrified and wondered if they had any grudges with Su Yin. There were also some races that rejoiced that they didn't provoke Su Yin. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a good ending. In fact, when Su Yin stepped into the celestial world, it was the arch race who made things difficult and oppressed him. The Xian people and the reincarnation the arch race had a deep grudge with him. Now that the two races were completely wiped out, Su Yin cut off the karma and left the celestial race. Such a terrifying method was also a form of intimidation. He was warning the great sects of the celestial world that if they stood on the wrong side, they would fight to the death in the future. Please show mercy, immortal Emperor Zong. The entire Starry Sky Imperial clan was in an uproar. An old big shot said with a trembling voice, "The Starry Sky Emperor has already been executed. Although our clan has wronged you in some ways, our Starry Sky Imperial clan has suffered heavy losses during the battles in the Three Realms battlefield. You want to end it with just a few words? Isn't it too easy?" Su Yan's eyes flashed with cold light as he stared at the reincarnation Imperial clan. He was looking down on them. He could sense that there was Emperor Juedon in this race, but that didn't count for much. Su Yan could sweep through them without the help of the giant axe. If the Celestial Court attacks the Three Realms battlefield, the entire reincarnation Imperial family will send out our troops to avenge our dead clansmen. No matter what, the Dark World is our greatest enemy. Emperor Zong, please show mercy. The ruler of the Starry Sky Emperor clan expressed his stance, but no one knew if his words were sincere or not. Su Yan only smiled calmly. Without saying a word, he left with the giant axe on his back. The entire Starry Sky Emperor clan was in an uproar. They also saw the situation clearly. The three emperor clans couldn't do anything to Emperor Zong, and they couldn't afford to offend the Celestial Court either. The other party could start a war at any time, and they could leave at any time. This kind of confidence suppressed all the clans in the world. Similarly, the three emperor clans didn't have any more troops. They could only stay in the celestial world. Su Yin wasn't worried that they wouldn't send out troops. He would come to the celestial world again. This place would become the Tao field for him to become the strongest emperor sooner or later. The great sects couldn't calm down, and the rulers were terrified. Along the way, tens of thousands of sects were silent. Moreover, all the great sects shut down the mountain protecting formation of their ancestral lands at the same time. What kind of scene was this? The four big shots of the human world rampaged, and the celestial world was silent forever. This was truly shocking the celestial world and the emperor clans. The entire celestial world was trembling. Some old antiques sneered. The immortal Elder Academy was gone, and two of the three emperor clans were destroyed. Now, the three emperor clans didn't have the face to shout out. The celestial world was most likely going to be chaotic in the future. They all had a bad feeling. The human world is rebuilt, and the calamity of the celestial world is temporarily over. What will the future hold? A group of the strongest emperors with terrifying auras gathered together in the celestial world. They looked at the backs of the four big shots and started a secret discussion. Some terrifying big shots couldn't help but sigh. If it wasn't for the three emperor clans suffering heavy losses tens of millions of years ago, they alone wouldn't be able to threaten the three emperor clans. This was the truth. This group of people was very strong, and their origins were heavenly. Although they didn't have any sect, they were all people that the emperor clans of the celestial world couldn't afford to offend. They're gone. They're leaving. The great ancestors' tone was gloomy. The four big shots left the celestial world one after another. No one stood out to stop them, and they were unobstructed along the way. His mood was especially terrible. The four big shots left just like that. The face that the three emperor clans had maintained with the three emperor weapons was also announced to be shattered. The three ancestors cried and laughed. The heavenly prestige of the emperor clans that had existed for countless years was shattered. It was simply a dream. This was even worse than killing them. What would the future hold? No one could guess, and they definitely wouldn't have thought that the moment Black King and the others arrived in the human world's otherworldly battlefield, they immediately gave the order to attack the Three Realms battlefield. Su Yan's eyes looked at the huge army that filled the world. It was so densely packed that it was impossible to count them. It was like a boundless black tsunami that reached the heavens, and their killing intent was overflowing. The war had already calmed down, and all the chaos had been suppressed. Su Yan looked at some experts, and they were all extremely strong. There were dozens of Emperor Juodon, and they were terrifying and domineering. The other emperors added up to more than 100. Su Yan was shocked, and he looked at a peerlessly beautiful woman from afar. She had skin of ice and bones of jade, and her aura swallowed the starry sky. She was sharp and peerless, and she had a peerless aura that shook the entire star ocean. Standing there, the universe lost its brilliance. The old star lord of Hokuto was like a child, crying and laughing beside this peerless woman. He even pointed at Su Yan, and with a face full of pride, he told this peerless woman in white that the current leader of Hokuto was Bamboo Moon, and this was her husband, who was now famous. The woman gave him a hurried glance, and from her eyes, Su Yan seemed to see billions of stars being destroyed and reformed. This was simply the queen of the Starry Sky monarch race, and her description of the Starry Sky was superb. Su Yan went up to greet her. This woman was the founder of Hokuto, and could be considered the ancestor of Bamboo Moon. The old Star Lord pulled Su Yan and laughed, and he seemed to be many years younger. He didn't know the name of the leader, but he heard that the soldiers of the Celestial Court were extremely respectful to her, and they called her Fairy Junjun. She was extremely young, and her aura could swallow the universe. She was obviously a peerless beauty, but she was like the queen of the starry sky, and she was very domineering. Roar! Daesong came, and it was extremely excited, and it rubbed against the nanny's arm. Ha ha! Su Yin laughed. Daesung's divine power in his previous life had completely awakened, and it had become a peak monarch. Moreover, its potential continued to be terrifying, and it wouldn't be long before it became a peerless monarch. After all, it was a 10 transformations true dragon, and its future growth was too great. It was very likely that it would be the next strongest monarch of the celestial court. How did its memory come? The peerless woman asked. She stretched out her slender hand and touched Daesung's head. Su Yin was silent. He had already studied this during his time as a progenitor. There was a big problem with the soil. He was wondering if the sword progenitor could use it. However, the sword progenitor said that the soil was a little strange and shouldn't be used casually. After all, Long Daesung's memory hadn't awakened yet. On the contrary, Fairy Zixia hadn't awakened all her memories. Perhaps she used the soil to reincarnate, and the stronger her cultivation, the more she would lose. The great showdown is about to begin. The sword ancestor was filled with emotions. The people of the heavenly court were strong and powerful. Although a group of emperors equal to heaven had yet to return, just this group of people alone was enough to support the foundation of the heavenly court and wage war against the dark world. How difficult was it to become a monarch? That was the strongest monarch. The sword progenitor had gone through countless calamities to reach this step and was respected as the sword progenitor. In the past, the sword progenitor was a white-robed swordsman. Uncle Black, aren't we going to attack the celestial world? Ziqilin frowned. The celestial world isn't so easy to attack. The sword progenitor sighed and said, back then, the human world faced the cruelest end, but in the end, the celestial world and the dark world didn't rule the celestial world. Why? Because the human world was directly crippled. Ziqilin didn't expect it to be so serious. It seemed that the 3 monarch clans could control the celestial world and fight to the death with them. No, it should be the celestial race now. There was no meaning in conquering a crippled celestial world. The price they had to pay was too high, and there was no benefit in opposing the celestial court. Before they fall, we have to make the celestial world go crazy. Big Black was astute and scheming. He shouted coldly. The 3 monarch armaments are constantly operating, and what they consume is the celestial world's source and the environment of the celestial world. The ones who suffer are the celestial world's people. They can't hold on for many years, and it won't be long before the people's hearts are lost. Only then will the celestial court send out troops. Su Yin nodded. That was indeed the case. He could sense that the celestial world environment was weakening, but the speed was extremely slow. However, the important thing was to prevent Su Yin from controlling the celestial world source. They had to keep the 3 monarch armaments operating. Then, the celestial world could also announce that it had entered an era of bloody calamity. This would be even worse and crueler than the Black Calamity. When the celestial race's fate is near, it will be the day we attack the celestial world. Black King shouted, take down the 3-realm battlefield and take down the heart of the 3 realms. When the time comes, we can send troops to the celestial world or the dark world at any time. In the future war, we can also make decisions. This was Blackie's strategic intention. It wanted to rebuild the celestial court, but its destination was the core of the 3 realms. Now that the dark world's vitality was greatly damaged, the Black King could not give them any time to breathe. They had to end the battle quickly and take down the 3-realm battlefield. After all, the 3-realm battlefield was the core of the 3 realms. The overall situation of the 3 realms would be controlled by them. Of course, this was not so easy. Sword Ancestor frowned. If they took down the 3-realm battlefield, with the current strength of the Celestial Court, it was not enough to contend with the Dark World. This was because their strongest monarch was very limited. However, Blackie had its own plans, so Sword Ancestor did not ask too much. Kill, kill, kill. The soldiers all over the world roared, emitting the flames of battle. Now, they were sending troops to the 3-realm battlefield. This was definitely something that the Dark World would not expect. Bang! At this moment, Su Yin took out the celestial world spring and directly exploded it. The tide of life brightly illuminated the alien battlefield, drowning hundreds of millions of miles away. This was a shocking scene. Su Yin used the stealing heaven technique to push the tide of life, penetrating the bodies of hundreds of millions of soldiers, giving them important nourishment. The Black King laughed loudly. They had obtained 3 celestial world springs. Most of the returning troops of the Celestial Court were exhausted. Now, with the help of this item, the Celestial Court's combat strength could be fully consolidated. Buzz! Billions of strands of the tide of life fell from the sky like sweet dew from heaven, blessing all living beings. Many heavily injured veterans got up one after another. Some soldiers who had lost arms or legs grew strong arms. Some generals whose divine power had dried up received shocking nourishment. Without a doubt, the energy of the entire celestial world spring caused the Celestial Court's combat strength to soar by a large margin. Hundreds of millions of soldiers bathed in the flame of life, standing at their peak state, exuding even more powerful combat strength. Listen to my command. 36 celestial stars, march quickly and kill the spies of the dark world. The army will then set off and attack the 3-realm battlefield. Take down the battlefield platform with lightning speed. The Black King waved his large claws. Under his command, hundreds of millions of soldiers roared. Boom! The large army condensed a grand blood channel, penetrating the boundless outer realm and charging directly toward the 3-realm battlefield. Chapter 21:34. 3 days later, the 3 realms battlefield was covered in rolling black clouds. This place had been ruled by the Dark World for many years, and all kinds of war fortresses had been built. There was even a towering, dark, ancient city under construction. The 3 realms battlefield had already belonged to the Dark World. The construction of the ancient city and the war fortresses showed the foresight of the Dark World's ancestral gods. They wanted to make the 3 realms battlefield impregnable and firmly control the core fortresses. Especially when ancestral god Tianli and the others returned to the Dark World, they immediately issued the highest military order, mobilizing the entire Dark World's forces to frantically build all kinds of fortresses. Even the ancestral gods of the Dark World participated, and even the half of the celestial world that they had conquered was withdrawn in large numbers. They gathered their troops to prevent the Celestial Court from attacking the 3 realms battlefield. The Dark World held a meeting of the highest level, and a group of the strongest ancestral gods came. They also had the highest strategic intentions. The Celestial World and the Celestial Court are like fire and water. The 2 worlds will definitely engage in a large-scale war. In the following period of time, the Dark World's troops will not be mobilized and firmly control the 3 realms battlefield. This is the most important task. Aren't you being too careful? An expert frowned and said coldly, "The Celestial Court's troops are here, but only 2 of the strongest emperors of the Celestial Court have returned. As for Emperor Zong, he can't be called the strongest emperor." An ancestral god's expression was cold. He didn't think that the Celestial Court had the power to go against the Dark World. To the ancestor gods who ruled over the Dark World, the strongest emperors were an important force that would determine life and death in the future war. Right now, the Celestial Court only had 3 strongest emperors: Big Brother, Black King, and Sword Ancestor. The 3 strongest emperors? The Dark World really didn't care. Ancestral god Tian Hun said coldly, "The enmity between the Celestial Court and the Celestial World is related to the 3 emperor clans. The strongest emperors of the Celestial World hate the Dark World. Once we fight the Celestial Court in the 3 realms battlefield, do you really think only the Celestial Court will participate? The other experts of the Celestial World won't sit idly by." These words caused the faces of the ancestor gods in the meeting hall to turn gloomy. The immortal world and the Dark World had both gone through countless years, and they had accumulated a number of their strongest foundations. What they were referring to was the strongest emperors. If the Celestial Court and the immortal realm joined forces, they could indeed pose a threat to the Dark World. After all, they had been fighting for a long time and had a blood feud that could not be resolved. In fact, they had suffered heavy losses in the past few years, and their vitality had been damaged. In short, in the following period of time, the Dark World was preparing to quickly construct the Three Realms battlefield, striving to complete a series of war strongholds as soon as possible. Not good. Ancestor god Tian Hun shot to his feet, his expression ugly. Terrifying soul light rose from his forehead as he opened his vertical eye, which could see through the boundless space-time. How dare they? Bastard! Run! Run! All of the elder gods in the assembly hall were stunned. The army of the celestial court was directly bearing down on them. Although the dark dimension was extremely far away from the Three Realms battlefield, they could already sense the terrifying aura of blood flowing through it. This was completely against common sense, directly dispatching troops to the Three Realms battlefield. Boom! It was like the sound of the end of the world. The corner of the Three Realms battlefield trembled violently. Finally, the gray haze that filled the sky produced a huge explosion. The terrifying aura of blood ran through the universe, covering the sun, the moon, and the stars. It was so grand that it transformed into a war lion, flowing with a luster that caused the endless beings of the dark world to tremble. It was too sudden and too fast. No one expected the celestial court to directly dispatch troops to the Three Realms battlefield. Billions of troops passed through. The dense and terrifying aura of blood mixed together, forming a war lion that roared through the past, present, and future. Boom! Countless war fortresses exploded, and countless soldiers of the Dark World were sent flying out. They were silently annihilated and turned into ashes. Not good. In the vast Three Realms battlefield, roars could be heard from various major areas. They did not receive any information. All the spies along the way had to be wiped out. No one was left alive. This was a thunderous surprise attack. It caused the corner of the Three Realms battlefield to explode. Blood filled the sky and dyed the greater world red. It was too sudden and shocking. This was a terrifying and boundless heavenly might. The blood of billions of troops intertwined and surged in all directions. They combined together to form a golden lion that could suppress the heavens and 10 lands. Kill! A roar swept through the Three Realms battlefield. This was a shocking change. Some ordinary ancestral gods trembled. Their bodies exploded, and they died along with their subordinates. In a distant region, more than half of the dark ancient city's buildings were shaking. The entire city was rumbling and shaking. Countless beings of the dark world in the city were torn apart, exploding into a bloody rain of light that filled the sky. The casualties were disastrous. A sea of blood flowed, indicating a great disaster. Bastard! The dark world was in an uproar. One after another, ancestral gods with powerful auras quickly walked out and called for an army. They definitely did not expect the Celestial Court to directly launch a surprise attack on the Three Realms battlefield. None of the powerful spies along the way had returned alive to report back. They had suffered too great a loss. The Three Realms battlefield was vast and boundless. It was extremely majestic. It was a shocking scene. The corner of the world that exploded, along with the vast space-time of the Three Realms battlefield, trembled. Countless beings died. The Dark World's reaction was extremely fast. The boundless Three Realms battlefield surged with billowing black fog. It transformed into a sinister demonic fog that surged violently and covered the entire world. The formation of the Supreme Demonic Abyss was a vast project. However, it was completed in a short period of time. It covered the place where the Celestial Court's army had landed. Kill! The Dark World army was fully awakened. They wanted to block the Celestial Court's landing place. They absolutely could not allow them to take down the battle platform. This was a peerless method. The billowing demonic fog erupted endlessly. Even emperors seemed insignificant. It simply tore through the long river of time. It pressed down on the Celestial Court's army with a loud rumble. The beings of the Dark World shouted and cheered. Without a doubt, the Dark World viewed the Three Realms battlefield with great importance. They had set up all kinds of heavenly methods to prevent the Celestial Court's army from attacking. In fact, if the Celestial Court hadn't launched a surprise attack, it wouldn't have been so easy to create a large gap in one go and turn it into a battle platform for the Celestial Court. They would have had to pay a great price. Rumble, endless black, demonic fog roared. One after another, it could be said that it formed a black ocean. This was the order of billions of layers of energy. It was extremely cold. It caused the war lion formed by the Celestial Court's army to become infinitely dim. It was as if the light of blood and chi had been extinguished. However, in an instant, the boundless dark matter drowned the Celestial Court's army and directly exploded. An extremely grand aura was released. It was as if a whole new universe was blooming. The energy emitted was too shocking. It caused the ancestors of the dark world to tremble. What was that thing? Resplendent light beams were released one after another. Very quickly, the space-time where the Celestial Court's army had landed on the Three Realms battlefield completely changed. Tens of thousands of stars awakened. One after another, they rumbled and rotated in an instant. They emitted a terrifying light that radiated across the entire Three Realms. Something big has happened in the Three Realms battlefield. Could it be that the Celestial Court is attacking the Three Realms battlefield? The emperors of the blood immortal world were all shocked. The Three Realms battlefield was changing greatly. The aura was too shocking. It had already affected the immortal world. It was as if a whole new world had been opened. The light of all ages was emitted, sweeping across the river of history. It emitted terrifying fluctuations of the great Tao. It was as if a slumbering celestial emperor was gradually awakening. The aura it emitted caused the ancestors of the Celestial Court to be horrified. Heavens, what is this thing? How can it be so terrifying? In the dark world, the immortal kings who were close to it directly collapsed. They let out miserable howls. The power of the Celestial Court's camp was too shocking. The light of all ages flowed, endlessly sweeping towards the distant great world. It was as if the immortal world was pressing down on them. Even the ancestors were scared. Bastard! The heavenly strength ancestor god roared. What was the Celestial Court doing? They could all see that this was the Celestial Court's environment blooming, affecting the vast world. Within the starry sky, the billions of troops were like celestial soldiers and generals descending to the mortal world, setting them off to be peerlessly powerful. With the opening of all the worlds, the Celestial Emperor's great doubt shocked the past and present. This was Blackie's strategic intention. It was preparing to move the Celestial Court's base camp to the core of the Three Realms. Once there was a base camp guarding it, it would be truly impregnable. Only then could it compete with the Dark World. The Dark World army did not dare to invade the land of all the worlds. The aura emitted by that world was infinitely awakened. It was extremely majestic. It was as if billions of mountains were pressing down on the ancestors' hearts, causing their faces to turn pale. Wasn't the universe of the Celestial Court destroyed? Why was it still intact? One had to know that once this world bloomed, Bao Kai and the others felt that the Emperor Road had disappeared and was replaced by the Celestial Court's strongest environment. Roar! Within the Celestial Court of all worlds, loud roars filled the sky. A huge war lion rose from the ground. Its pupils were even brighter and bigger than the sun. Kill! War god Xing Tian roared and charged forward on the lion. In an instant, a huge tiger that was as white as jade climbed up. Its roar shook the universe. Between its mouth and nose, the sky melted and the great Tao collapsed. On its back, there was a beautiful woman who looked down on all living things. It was another stunning woman. She was ranked in the absolute Emperor realm and emitted a vast Empress light. In the Celestial Court of all worlds, Cold War gods rose from the ground one after another. It had to be said that the Celestial Court was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were many experts. Although there were not enough strongest emperors, there was a group of absolute emperors who were standing in their golden years. There was nothing much to say. They started the battle immediately. They wanted to take down the Three Realms battlefield. Hundreds of leading experts charged out. The billions of troops were like gods and demons. Boom! The moment they charged out, they formed a magnificent torrent of blood essence. It tore through the sky and charged toward the dark world's endless army. Long Daesong was quite powerful. 10 dragons lay on the horns on its forehead. Its blazing golden shell emitted the supreme aura of a 10 transformations true dragon. Without a doubt, the Dragon Grand Sage was the king of kings. He carried Su Yin on his back, and one man and one horse charged forward. His golden hooves stomped on the void. Kill! Su Yin drew the huge axe on his back. It exploded and turned into the fiercest light in the Three Realms battlefield. The dazzling axe light cut through the universe. In the world guarded by the Dark World's army, a terrifying crack was instantly torn open. Roar! Long Daesong roared. One man and one horse dominated the world. Su Yin waved the huge axe. This was an invincible weapon that could sweep through the world. Along with his body, he activated the Emperor Suppression Art. He was like a supreme giant that charged forward. Dark creatures exploded in the sky. This attack was too terrifying. Even the ancestral gods were terrified. A few thousand years had passed. The war god, Su Yin, who looked down on the immortal devil battlefield, was now an absolute emperor. He wielded the world-destroying axe. No! A peerless ancestor god shuddered. His axe was too sharp, and the dragon great sage exuded the aura of a supreme being. One man and one horse were extremely powerful, and in an instant, the peerless ancestor god was cleaved from head to toe. Chapter 2135. The expressions of the heavenly soul king and the others were cold. Had Su Yin become the strongest emperor? He had killed the supreme ancestor god in one move. At this moment, they really hoped that Su Yin was the strongest emperor. If he wasn't, the problem would be extremely terrifying. This person was too famous in the past. He had won 3 out of 3 battles in the immortal devil battlefield. Even the descendants of the Dark Emperor couldn't stop him. Rumble. The Three Realms battlefield was turbulent. The strongest battle had begun. In an instant, it had reached its most intense level. A group of ancestor god experts charged toward the battlefield. They wanted to kill Su Yin. Brats, Grandpa Black is here. In an instant, the Black King let out a deafening roar. His body enlarged infinitely and turned into a majestic battlefield beast. The Black King furnace was above his head, and his huge flesh shell was suffused with the radiance of the reincarnation purgatory. He waved his huge claws and charged toward the strongest ancestor gods. The big brother was majestic. His hair danced in the wind. He let out a long roar, and his aura was boundless. He didn't seem like an old man. Instead, he seemed like a young, hot-blooded man. He waved his huge bone club and charged toward the strongest battlefield. The Swordmaster and Small Pagoda charged over as well. With the 4 experts joining forces, even if 7 or 8 strongest ancestor gods suddenly appeared, they would still be able to stop them. Now, they wanted to divide the battlefield world so that the Celestial Court could conquer a large number of territories in a short time. This would allow them to gain a foothold in the Three Realms battlefield. Roar! The ancient bugle horn sounded. Blood-stained war flags danced, and huge war drums beat. Kill! In the Celestial Court's camp, a large group of experts charged forward. They wanted to take down the battlefield as soon as possible. The Dark World's military strength in the Three Realms battlefield was limited. They wanted to reclaim all the lost territories before the Dark World's army arrived. Boom! Xing Tian War God and the other experts charged to the front. They were the main generals of the Celestial Court. They were titled Celestial Generals and Marquises. The Celestial Court's kings charged forward. Huge blood-red cracks appeared in the boundless battlefield world. They were simply plowing through the enemy. The leading generals attacked, and the vast army of the heavenly courts charged forward. The battle cries shook the heavens and the earth, shaking the great world. It was as if a dam had burst in the vast universe. The Three Realms battlefield rumbled fiercely, and the dark matter that filled the sky constantly exploded. The large army that belonged to the Celestial Court surged with energy and blood. Gods and demons soared through the sky as they attacked and occupied various space-time nodes. They flowed with a matchless ferocious light and were invincible. It's open just like that? I'm really surprised. It's enough to see the determination of the celestial court. In the immortal realm, the monarch-level giants looked towards the three realms battlefield one after another. A great battle at the peak had already erupted. It was too intense and ferocious, developing to the most terrifying degree. Even though they were separated by space-time, the celestial realm could still hear the sounds of battle coming from the three realms battlefield. Some of the old monsters who had lived for countless years walked out of their mountain gates. They called for their old friends and hurried towards the three realms battlefield. The disturbance this triggered was extremely shocking. There wasn't much to say. Immortal Realm and Dark World had a blood feud to begin with, and some of the most powerful monarch experts hated Dark World bitterly. They were prepared to get involved. The Celestial Court is attacking the three realms battlefield. The news spread like wildfire, engulfing the vast immortal realm. Many soldiers roared madly. The Celestial Court has launched a counterattack, forcefully attacking the three realms battlefield. They have already seized a portion of the lost territories. Is that true? The Celestial Court is attacking the three realms battlefield. Can they reclaim the lost territories? They're too decisive, directly entering the three realms battlefield. The entire world was shocked, causing heated discussions. Countless creatures roared with bloodshot eyes. Back then, 30 to 40% of the immortal realm's territories had fallen, and too many creatures had died. Large groups of clans had left their homes, harboring an overflowing hatred. Now that they heard that the Celestial Court was attacking the three realms battlefield, this caused their almost extinguished battle blood to boil. They wanted to participate in the battle. The three monarch clans were unusually silent. They didn't make any response, nor did they make any attempts to stop them. In this battle, their reputation had hit rock bottom. If they forcefully tried to stop them, it would most likely incite public anger. Even the experts of the three monarch clans were extremely clear that the Dark World couldn't be underestimated. Although their vitality had been greatly damaged during these years of fighting, once they went crazy, they would be able to dispatch an endless army to reinforce the three realms battlefield. The Celestial Court wanted to attack and occupy the three realms battlefield. This was equivalent to a fool's dream. For the Dark World, the three realms battlefield couldn't be lost. Once they lost the three realms battlefield, this also indicated that the Dark World's fate would be the same as the immortal realms. They would face the danger of being destroyed at any time. Thus, they could pay any price to resist the thunderous attacks of the Celestial Court. The world of the battlefield was vast and majestic, constantly enlarging. It was quite spectacular. The land where gods and demons were bathed in blood, the dilapidated rivers and mountains, the large world that was full of devastation, rumbled and trembled. The battle cries were about to collapse the river of eternity. Kill. Immortal kings fought with their lives. Emperors went berserk. This was a war that shocked the heavens and earth and made ghosts and gods weep. Blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, the land occupied by the Celestial Court, the land of all realms manifested, revealing the heavenly might of the ancient celestial emperors, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries. The appearance of the world became more and more vast and majestic. The dilapidated ground reformed, the collapsed sky healed, and even the stars that had exploded into fragments began to be reborn. The Myriad Realms battlefield was the Celestial Court's environment. The later progenitor was just a region of land. Once the land of all realms bloomed, it indicated that the Celestial Court's environment would begin to take root and sprout here. In the world of the Celestial Court, the sea of laws gradually flowed out, turning into a golden ocean, rapidly covering the heavens and the earth. For a moment, the aura that was revealed was boundless. Rumble. The land of all realms battlefield awakened. The sea of laws burned fiercely, radiating the power of the large environment, vast and mighty towards the Three Realms battlefield space-time, forming a majestic battlefield platform world, restraining the influence of the dark matter. This was the Black King's confidence, to suddenly say something unpleasant. If they really couldn't suppress the dark world, they could still retreat unscathed and establish themselves in the Three Realms battlefield. The Celestial Court is invincible. The Celestial Court is invincible. We will win every battle. We will subdue every attack. The sky full of soldiers roared, their battle blood surging, their ferocious auras endless. Their strength was reinforced, and they comprehended the Tao Celestial Emperor's majestic environment world, giving them peerless confidence. The leading generals waved their flags and shouted, blowing the horn to charge, fiercely attacking the land of darkness. Kill! Su Yan and a series of experts roared in the universe, their peak battle strength erupting, their killing intent overflowing. They worked together, blasting open one dark defensive line after another, withstanding the endless pressure at the forefront, blasting open hundreds of paths of blood, leading the army madly forward. The war between the races progressed to the most frenzied level. In the dark battlefield world, a corner of the area was rapidly occupied by the Celestial Court, madly charging towards the depths, stretching the battle line endlessly. The war was tragic. The number of living beings dying every day was immeasurable. The Celestial Court displayed its powerful battle strength, hundreds of celestial emperors and marquises leading the main army in a mad slaughter. Behind them, the land of all eras bloomed, becoming stronger and more glorious day by day, constantly whistling out the laws of order, becoming their main camp, freely advancing and retreating. Su Yan had gone mad from the killing. With a giant axe in hand, he could sweep away any enemy below the strongest emperor realm. His entire body was covered in blood, the world-destroying battle axe bleeding incessantly. The war became more and more cruel. The army of the Dark World rapidly increased, preventing the Celestial Court from further attacking the Three Realms battlefield. Block them, no matter the cost. The ancestor god of the Dark World roared, endless murderous weapons rushing out, wanting to fight to the death with the Celestial Court's main army. The Black King laughed angrily. What was the point of saying all this now? The Celestial Court's environment had been rebuilt. They had the strongest main camp. Big Black ordered the Celestial Court's main army to focus on defense. No matter how the war progressed, the losses had to be maintained to the lowest level. The violent battlefield instantly calmed down. This war continued for half a month. A large number of Celestial World troops rushed to the Three Realms battlefield. One after another, big shots descended on the battlefield world. Seeing the current state of the Three Realms battlefield, they all had complicated feelings. The Lost Worlds had been recovered. An even stronger war platform had been built. The Celestial World's 5 strongest emperors had come, an army of hundreds of millions. As expected, what the Dark World was worried about still happened. Some races in the Celestial World couldn't just sit by and watch. Once the Celestial Court and the Celestial World's main army converged, it would be a cruel blow to them. Especially with the 5 strongest emperors from the Celestial World, it greatly reduced the pressure on Big Brother and the rest. We originally thought that this war would last for thousands of years, but with the reinforcement from the Celestial World, we might end it in a few hundred years. Big Black said directly, angering the ancestor god of the Dark World. They were wishful thinking. It was a difficult period filled with blood. Day after day, year after year. The war in the Three Realms battlefield continued, never stopping. Within the universe of the myriad worlds, the life aura became more and more majestic, a large number of injured veterans recuperating here. They had the strongest support. 10 years had already passed, but the war was still going on. After conquering 2 emperors, they obtained more than 1 billion immortal sources and 2 springs of life of the Celestial World. These resources were used to create the Sea of Life. Many heavily injured soldiers could stay in it for a day or 2 before leaving in good health. In fact, if not for the fact that the Dark World had so many ancestor gods, the Dark World wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. The Celestial Court's army was powerful, its army terrifying, and the Celestial World's army was used to attack from the left and right wings. Every 10 years, the Celestial Court's territory would become more and more vast. The fruits of their victory were shocking. It had to be said that this aroused the fighting spirit of the Celestial Court's army, and the news kept spreading, causing a commotion in the Celestial World. Almost 100 years had passed, but the era of bloody calamity in the Celestial World still hadn't ended. Cultivating the Tao was difficult. Comprehending the Tao was difficult. This was a heavy blow to the Celestial World. According to them, the races of the reinforcements of the Celestial World had all moved to the myriad worlds, giving them the strongest environment. This made many races jealous, and they rushed to the Three Realms battlefield in large numbers, wanting to fight for the chance to live in the core of the Three Realms in the future. It couldn't be helped. The myriad worlds had gone through 100 years of settling, and the chaotic environment of the Three Realms had been tidied up, giving the experts an environment to break through. Some Celestial World experts even took the opportunity to reach the Emperor Realm. Once this news spread, the impact would be terrifying. There was no need to explore the Emperor Realm. The environment here was different from the Celestial World, as long as they were strong enough. They could break through the bottleneck and break through. The Celestial Court is tricking you. Do you really think that you can conquer the Three Realms battlefield and the Dark World? Our Celestial World and the human world couldn't do it back then. How can they do it? Some Celestial World experts roared, feeling that they were betraying the Celestial World and being bewitched by the Celestial Court. The more armies and races that left, the weaker the Celestial World became. Would they try to nibble away the Celestial World step by step? The three Emperor clans had a premonition that something was wrong. If they really pulled the armies of the Celestial World away, countless races would retreat. Once that day came, they wouldn't hesitate to destroy the Celestial World, right? Betray the Celestial World? The older generation laughed bitterly. His descendants had all left to participate in the Great War of the Three Realms. The current Celestial World was nothing like the Celestial World of the past. The Age of Chaos had arrived in the Blood Celestial World. If this continued, all the races in the Celestial World wouldn't be able to sit still. This also confirmed the Black King's words. If this continued, all the races in the Celestial World would go crazy, and they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Currently, there were already 7 strongest Emperor Realm experts in the Celestial World participating in the war. These people had a premonition that the reinforcements from the Dark World would not be able to continue. It seemed like the Master of the Celestial Court had finally damaged the foundation of the Dark World after tens of millions of years. Back then, when the Master of the Celestial Court made a move, it was obvious that the Reincarnation Emperor clan and the Cien people had collapsed. The ultimate strength of the Dark World had also decreased. This allowed them to see hope. The Celestial Court might really be able to take down the Great War of the Three Realms and complete the historical change. Bao Kai and the other experts had all become peak Emperor Realm experts who could command the world. They were extremely powerful. This was a battle of life and death. It was also a type of training, a type of great training. Since Su Yin awakened thousands of years ago, he rarely fought. After hundreds of years of life and death experience, Emperor Zong had become even stronger and more powerful. He had even killed more than 10 ancestor gods. His battle record was quite glorious. Moreover, Su Yan's realm had already reached the peak of the 7th heaven of Emperor Realm. He was getting closer to the peak. It has been 130 years. I, Su Yan, have killed countless ancestor gods. Do you think you can kill me secretly? Su Yan's body was covered in blood. He was like a peerless devil god who had created the world. His voice was deep and deafening. It resounded through the rivers of blood. A huge axe swept through the air. He had joined forces with the great general of the Celestial Court. At this moment, Su Yin and War God Xing Tian had joined forces to suppress the strongest ancestor god of the Dark World. Slash! Su Yan roared furiously. The world-destroying battle axe erupted with power. He chopped off the strongest ancestor god's arm. Boom! War god Xing Tian's fist caused the strongest ancestor god's chest to rupture. His fist had almost penetrated it. Nice! War god Xing Tian shouted. He had secretly joined forces to heavily injure the strongest ancestor god. Once Su Yan's peak 7th heaven battle prowess went berserk, his aura would be infinitely close to the strongest Emperor Realm expert's heavenly might. He killed until the entire battlefield exploded. This supreme treasure is getting stronger and stronger. A huge ancestor god with a pair of huge wings roared in pain. This was the ancestor god of the divine feather race, the only strongest ancestor god. Long Day Song carried Su Yan and charged madly, chasing after the strongest ancestor god of the divine feather race. Slash! Su Yan waved his huge axe. Beam after beam of bright axe light tore through the universe, cutting off ancestor god of the divine feather race's path of retreat. He had no choice but to travel towards the depths of the Three Realms battlefield. As he flapped his huge wings, he caused a time storm. Even a long river of time was trembling. His speed was too shocking. The long river of time was faintly blurred. This was the strongest Emperor Realm expert. He was terrifyingly strong. How could he be so easy to kill? Three Realms Mountain? Su Yan's pupils suddenly shrank. Ancestor god of the divine feather race had fled into the Three Realms Mountain. He was somewhat silent. This seemed to be the origin of his life. It's about time I make a trip there and figure out everything. Su Yan's emotions were complicated. He had barged into the Three Realms Mountain. Back then, the Three Realms Mountain's domain was small and weak. Although the Three Realms Mountain was in its strongest state now, it wasn't so easy to barge in. Chapter 2136. Three World Mountain was known as the strongest life forbidden zone. A long time ago, Three World Mountain was where the emperors of the Three Realms gathered. It was also the strongest cultivation holy land. In the outer region of Three World Mountain, there was a super strong domain that devoured people's blood and life. It was like a demon slumbering in the abyss, devouring the life of any expert that entered. Immortal Emperor Zong, you dare to come again? Do you really think I'm afraid of you? God Feather's face was gloomy. His chest was bleeding, and he was missing an arm. But even so, God Feather was still extremely terrifying. He released his strongest power in the Forbidden Zone. God Feather was afraid of the axe, not Su Yan. The killing power of a supreme, true treasure was shocking. Even the strongest emperors had to avoid it. Now that he was deep in Three World Mountain, God Feather's speed was greatly reduced. He had to be on guard against the threat of death. Suddenly, the dark sky cracked. It was as if the ancient abyss had been split in half by the axe. Your giant axe, how is this possible? God Feather's eyes were wide open. He felt it was unbelievable. After all, it was hard to revive weapons in Three World Mountain. Even a weapon as strong as God Feather's was suppressed. But Su Yan's axe wasn't affected at all. Even Three World Mountain didn't revive it. It wasn't because the axe was too strong. Could it be that the axe came from Three World Mountain? Was it a supreme, true treasure nurtured by Three World Mountain? God Feather flapped his wings and flew up. He forcefully shook off the death suppression of Three World Mountain. The huge black wings broke open the space-time path and flew into the deep world. You can't escape. Su Yan roared. The axe split open the sky. This attack was extremely terrifying. It had the power to destroy a world. Hong Long. The sky was filled with great Tao fragments and space-time light rain. The axe's aura was too terrifying. It hit the flapping black wings. God Feather's wings were comparable to a true treasure. The world-destroying axe was extremely sharp. It slashed over. Hong Chi, a huge black wing, stained with black blood, fell to the ground and created a huge hole. These were the wings of the most powerful monarch-level expert, containing a large amount of death and destruction matter, able to form a land of death. Bastard, old ancestor divine Feather's eyes felt as if they were going to split apart. His injuries were too severe, his chest ruptured, an arm and a wing both missing. He was seriously injured. He had a premonition that he would not be able to escape. Originally, he wanted to use the three-world mountain to avoid the giant axe. However, he did not expect that the giant axe would not be affected at all. Instead, it could unleash its full power. Hand over your life. Su Yin rushed up, killing intent radiating from his eyes as he brandished his giant axe and attacked fiercely. Even his second wing could not be saved. Divine Feather Ancestor God tried his best, but he was still cut down by the giant axe. This was precisely a supreme, true treasure, able to threaten the lives of the most powerful emperors. It was just too savage. Two bleeding black wings fell to the ground. The Divine Feather Ancestral God was heavily injured, and he was like a toothless tiger. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. He really was unlucky. But what was the origin of the world-exterminating battle axe? Even the three-world mountain did not suppress it. Could it be that the origin of it originated from the three-world mountain? I'll give you a chance. Defeat me, and I'll spare your life. Su Yin put away the giant axe and immediately charged forward. His moves were large and powerful as he attacked forward. At the borders of the three-world mountain, murderous weapons from all directions fought. Now, they were all frightened by the terrifying aura rising from within the three-world mountain. A very cruel and bloody battle erupted inside. Roar! The two experts roared, fighting each other in the dark and gloomy land of death. They fought until the heavens and earth darkened, and the sun and moon were destroyed. This battle was terrifying beyond compare. The two great experts exchanged thousands of blows, forcing the most powerful ancestral god to risk his life. He burned large amounts of his life source and activated 120% of his battle strength to fight to the death with Su Yin. Another 500 exchanges passed, and Su Yin tore off his arm. He was bathed in blood as he brandished his fists, punching holes in his chest one after another. The heaven and earth trembled. The Divine Feather Ancestral God struggled frantically, but he still could not escape his fate. I hate it. The Divine Feather Ancestral God roared in grief. One had to know that within the three-world mountain, he could not unleash his maximum battle strength. He could not blend in with the environment to fight against Su Yin. The Divine Feather Ancestral God has fallen. The experts of the Dark World cried out in fear. They noticed that within the three-world mountain, a figure bathed in blood was holding the Divine Feather Ancestral God's head. Su Yan's ferocious aura surged for millions of miles, causing a huge commotion. The Heavenly Soul Ancestral God was furious. This was the strongest ancestral god of the Dark World. The fall of any one of them was a blow to the fortune of the entire race. Who would have thought that Su Yin would kill one of the strongest ancestral gods? This was the second strongest emperor that Su Yin had killed, the Divine Feather Ancestral God. He was covered in blood, and his hair was wet. He emitted an abnormally terrifying aura. Immortal Emperor Zong. It's Immortal Emperor Zong who killed the Divine Feather Ancestral God. The three-world battlefield was in chaos. Over the years, Su Yin had killed a large number of ancestral gods of the Dark World. Now he had killed the Divine Feather Ancestral God. With his prestige, the morale of the Dark World's army was greatly reduced. Su Yin was once invincible on the immortal devil battlefield. Now, he could even kill the strongest emperor. It had to be said that this shock filled the hearts of the Dark World's soldiers with fear. After 100 years of war, the Dark World's losses were too heavy. On the other hand, the Celestial Court's camp was getting stronger and stronger. After all, the armies of the immortal world were rushing to the battlefield. If this continued, the Dark World would definitely lose. Kill, kill, kill! The battlefield was in chaos. The Celestial Court's army charged forward, spilling blood. They wanted to destroy the source of the Dark World's disaster. Behind them, the world covered by the 10,000 worlds expanded day and night. Every inch of territory that the Celestial Court occupied was covered by the 10,000 worlds. It released the supreme law in order to strengthen the celestial court's soldiers. The war continued. In a world of blood, only the three-world mountain was isolated from the rest of the world. Long Day Song sniffed the corpse of the divine feather ancestral god and shook its head. The bodies of the dark world's creatures were filled with dark matter. It was useless to absorb it. In the end, it opened its mouth and picked up the two pairs of wings. These things could be refined and turned into treasures. They were very impressive. Naturally, it couldn't be wasted. One man and one horse ventured into the inner world of the three-world mountain. They had been here before. Su Yan had obtained the mystic 9 escape techniques here. They traveled quickly. When they were about to reach the depths of the three-world mountain, Su Yan could sense a terrifying danger. It was as if the eternal demonic abyss had opened its mouth, waiting for them to enter. It was a forbidden zone that even the strongest emperor feared. They didn't dare to enter recklessly. Otherwise, the three-world mountain would have been leveled. Su Yin carefully entered the inner world. Awu! Long Day Song let out a low roar. It felt a large hand grabbing it. Long Day Song's potential was extremely great. It was about to reach the absolute emperor level. The vigorous and dense blood energy within its body was declining rapidly. It was as if it was being refined into a mummy. It roared madly. This couldn't be investigated too deeply. Otherwise, it would suffer a great calamity. Oh! In the blink of an eye, the giant axe shone and scattered down strange fluctuations. The three-world mountain didn't target it. Understand now. Su Yin sucked in a breath and said in a low voice, the number 1 mountain under the heavens should belong to the three-world mountain. It should be a part of the three-world mountain. The giant axe is equivalent to a supreme treasure nurtured by the three-world mountain. Long Day Song gradually calmed down. It approached the giant axe and panted heavily. It ate several secret medicines to recuperate. This was the origin of the giant axe. It didn't originate from the immortal world. This place was actually like an ocean. Chaotic fog surged in the ocean. The appearance of the world inside the three-world mountain made Long Day Song's hair stand on end. It felt like the seawater could refine it to death. It was filled with chaotic energy. Isn't the interior of the three-world mountain said to be filled with treasures? Su Yin was astonished. He used the heavenly eye to observe the surroundings. He discovered that under the vast chaotic sea, huge mountains and rivers were faintly discernible. There seemed to be a mysterious great world inside the sea. In the boundless chaotic sea, dense fog surged. It was as if a huge life form was hibernating. It also seemed like an eternal time vortex that could easily devour emperors. Even the most powerful giants would find it difficult to deal with it. Su Yan's expression was solemn. He held the giant axe in his hand. They walked aimlessly. They seemed especially small as they walked in the chaotic sea. Soon, their figures disappeared without a trace. It was too big. It was boundless and vast. This was the core region of the three-world mountain, the most important three-world mountain. Su Yin vaguely caught that in this vast world, there were energy substances of the three-world mountain. However, it was very chaotic. In the distant past, the three-world mountain was the strongest sacred ground. It was the place where the order of the three-world mountain converged. Su Yan's eyes widened. Then this world should be the strongest world in the three-world mountain. Why did it break apart? Back then, the master of the celestial court must have come here. I wonder if we can find his footprints? The chaotic sea was huge. There was no end to it. They walked aimlessly. He speculated that even if several strongest emperors joined forces, it would be extremely difficult to open a safe passage. They would encounter a great calamity in the process. Boom! The sound of thunder exploded. It was too sudden and extremely shocking. It was enough to shatter the soul of an emperor. Long Day Song spat out a mouthful of blood. He felt like his primordial spirit was about to explode. It was extremely painful. His golden forehead cracked. His primordial spirit in his sea of consciousness was about to fall. Su Yan's mouth was also bleeding. His primordial spirit trembled and was in danger of exploding. His expression was horrified. Where did the lightning come from? It was because he didn't see any lightning, only hearing the sound of thunder. It sounded like it was right next to their ears, but in reality, it was as if it was separated by the long river of time. It exploded countless years ago, transmitted to this world, about to destroy their bodies and spirits. Long Daesung hugged its large head. If it was struck again, it might not be able to take it. What a terrifying three-world mountain. No wonder even the most powerful emperor's expressions changed. Who can roam about this place? Only an unmatched existence like the master of the celestial court has the qualifications to run amok here. If I didn't wield the giant axe, I wouldn't have been able to come here. Su Yan's primordial spirit in his sea of consciousness welcomed a great eruption. He activated the heaven-opening scripture, scattering down, surging thick primordial spirit radiance. Even though his primordial spirit didn't reach the level of the most powerful emperors, his soul energy was too abundant and exuberant. The scripture was arranged in an orderly manner, locking down this space to prevent his primordial spirit from being shaken down by the sound of thunder. How long? Immediately afterwards, the sound of thunder erupted again. Su Yan's body swayed a bit, his primordial spirit suffering a great disaster. Fortunately, his primordial spirit was reconstructed with the heaven-opening scripture's order, barely able to stand. Only this time, they saw a blurry lightning radiance that was a bit far from them. Ow! Long Daesung's body went taut, all the fine hairs on its body standing on end. This big fellow was shocked. Su Yan's eyes widened, finding this hard to believe. It was because at the limits of their sea region, there were living creatures. The misty primal chaos sea seemed a bit short and small. The main reason was that the figure occupying the limits of the sea region was extremely imposing. It looked insignificant, but in reality, it was as if it was sitting at the peak of the heavens, becoming the ancestor of heaven and earth. It was to the extent where Su Yan felt a heaven-collapsing, earth-splitting might. Once he approached, his body and spirit would definitely be wiped out. What kind of expert is this? Su Yan was also shocked, his skin and bones feeling cold, mind shaken. He could compete with the most powerful emperors. However, the figure at the end of the primal chaos sea emitted the sound of thunder from its body, almost shattering Long Daesung's primordial spirit. Even his primordial spirit couldn't withstand it. Could it be that this was a supreme giant comparable to the master of the celestial court? Apex. Chapter 21:37. The mysterious giant floated at the end of the chaos sea, and heaven and earth seemed to be under his shadow. An extremely ancient existence with unknown origins suddenly appeared in the forbidden zone of life. Boom! Thunderclaps rumbled one after another, deafening to the ears. It was like an old giant was roaring, and the commotion was rather outrageous. Although there was no substantial killing order, these thunderclaps were enough to obliterate the primordial spirit of an expert. Let's go! Su Yan didn't dare to explore the situation and wanted to retreat. Then, Su Yan frowned. In his sea of consciousness, the lightning seed suddenly moved. This was something Su Yan had extracted from the Tenrai of Beach back then. It was known as the Heaven and Earth Lightning Eye, and it was said to be a supreme substance that was formed along with the origin of the three realms. This thing flowed with the light of lightning. It actually had a strange connection with the supreme shadow that was floating in the chaos sea. With the lightning surrounding his essence soul, Su Yan was no longer affected by this world. This discovery was too big. Could this be the master of the heaven-opening lightning scripture? Su Yan instantly thought of many things, and his eyes flashed with shock. How ancient is this creature? Could it be a supreme existence comparable to the human emperor, the ancestor of Earth immortals, or the master of the uncanny divine craft sect? It's the most ancient and mysterious creature in the three realms. Su Yan clenched his fists, and lightning flashed in his eyes. This speculation was very likely. This also involved a very big problem. What kind of special connection existed behind the heaven-opening scripture? The Thunder Immortal Emperor had obtained the Heaven and Earth Lightning Eye from the Three Realms Mountain and also the complete heaven-opening lightning scripture. This wasn't considered a top secret. The mysterious supreme giant that they had encountered now should be the master of the heaven-opening lightning scripture. The supreme being was right in front of them. Suyen's heart was filled with shock. This encounter was a little surreal. Suyen didn't believe that the Thunder Immortal Emperor had anything to do with this person. He should have obtained his inheritance by accident. Gradually, as they got closer, they seemed to have arrived at the end of the chaotic Star Island domain. That terrifying and blurry ancient creature emitted rolling thunderous sounds that were enough to destroy the world. Suyen saw some unreal lightning, as if it flowed down from the deepest part of the universe. It was like a phenomenon, a supreme being accompanied by world-destroying lightning. It's dead. This terrifying giant seemed to have died. His body was in tatters, dyed in silver blood. Soon after, Suyen's eyes widened. He discovered that the chest of the lightning spirit was emitting a weak, breathing sound. The sound of thunder was coming from its chest. It seemed to be alive. However, the terrifying creature suddenly approached Suyen. It was as if millions of lightning bolts were rushing over, surrounding the world, destroying tribulation. The long day song roared uneasily. It felt its hair stand on end. It felt that even its flesh was self-destructing. The Tao that this old monster emitted was too ridiculous. The real lightning tore through the past, present, and future, and pressed down on Suyen and the others. In an instant, Suyen encountered calamity. It was as if the origin of lightning was pressing down, bringing them into the world-destroying tribulation. The kind of grand Tao aura was simply creating a great world of lightning. Fortunately, the giant axe shone and isolated the supreme giant's aura. Otherwise, they would really be in danger. Why can't this old thing distinguish between friend and foe? Suyen was incomparably angry. He still wanted to save his life and pull him to the same side. At the same time, Suyen was thinking in his heart, how did the three-world mountain collapse? With such a terrifying giant overseeing it, what kind of strange thing had happened here before? The long day song seemed very irritable. It felt that this supreme being was too dangerous. Once it revived, it might give them a slap. It opened its mouth and bit Suyen's arm, meaning to leave quickly. The day song seemed very uneasy. Its huge body trembled like a frightened golden rabbit. Buzz! Suddenly, Suyen looked at the end of the Chaos Sea. On the other side, the mysterious and unknown space-time suddenly blossomed with brilliant and holy light. What is that? The aura is somewhat familiar? Suyen was stunned. What was at the end of the Chaos Sea? He realized that it was very difficult to cross over. The main reason was that the Supreme Being was occupying the end, blocking the way. The Daesong roared, and its beast eyes widened. It discovered that the Supreme Being occupying the sky, its tattered body vaguely moved. Suyen also discovered it, but in the next moment, he caught an even more intense world-destroying tribulation. This being was too terrifying. Its tattered body shook, and heaven and earth were about to explode. The entire chaotic Star Island seemed like it was about to collapse. Its strength was boundless. Is it really still alive? Suyen quickly retreated with the Daesong. He also looked at the other end of the Chaos Sea. In an extremely special world, the brilliant light became brighter and brighter. There were black, white, and golden lights. The three-world flower. Suyen was dumbfounded. Could there be a complete three-world flower at the end of the Chaos Sea? The three-world flower was known as the strongest soul medicine in the three-world. Its value was unimaginable. Ever since the three-world mountain collapsed, the three-world flower had ceased to exist. Now that Suyen saw the three-world flower, could it be that after so many years, a complete three-world flower had grown? Perhaps the three-world mountain had preserved a complete world. This discovery was too important. After all, the three-world mountain was the most powerful cultivation ground in the three-world mountain. It was the place where the Thearchs gathered. As expected, a huge flower appeared from the other end of the Chaos Sea and gradually started to bloom. It was filled with a holy mist and instantly lit up the entire Chaos Sea. Suyin felt that his primordial spirit was warm. The halo that suddenly bloomed and emitted contained a supreme medicinal power that could elevate one's soul. His soul body was somewhat condensed, and the soul aura within it had quietly increased. This made Suyin a little crazy. If it was really a complete three-world flower, it would be a great fortune if he could snatch it. The three-colored flower grew in a special world. When it started to bloom, that world was changing. It was as if a condensed three-world space-time had appeared and revolved around the huge flower. In an instant, the flower bud started to bloom. It was like a peerless beauty waiting to bloom. One after another, it was beautiful beyond compare. Furthermore, during the process of the three-world flower blooming, it spewed out the strongest soul medicine essence, making heaven and earth resplendent. Roar! Suddenly, the peerless being's chest emitted a thunderous sound. His tattered body surged with ancient vitality. He was like a giant that had been hibernating for countless years. He suddenly opened his mouth. What was he doing? It was devouring the red clouds and the essence of the blooming Three Realms flower. Suyin's eyes widened. This being was guarding here. It seemed like he was waiting for the three-world flower to bloom. How many eras had he waited? How many eras had he guarded? The value of the three-world flower had exceeded Suyin's expectations. Perhaps it would be of great help to an expert like the master of the celestial court. However, no matter how loud this being's roar was, it could not absorb the essence of the blooming three-world flower. The terrifying lightning being's body was tattered, and thunderous sounds came from his chest. Thunder rumbled, and the vast chaotic star island domain trembled. Huge waves surged on the surface of the sea. In an instant, they covered the sky and the sun. They could even wash the stars down. The sea was in chaos, and huge waves filled the sky. Suyin and Long Daesung resisted with all their might. They used their huge axes to protect their surroundings. This flower is on the other side of the chaotic star island. Does it still belong to the three-world mountain? Could it be that even a powerful lightning being like this can't cross to the other side of the chaotic star island? Could it be that there's a forbidden world even more terrifying than the three-world mountain? Suyin murmured. Today's encounter was too shocking. Evil things happen one after another. He looked at the place where the three-world flower bloomed. This flower did not seem to belong to this space-time. It was rooted in an extremely special holy kingdom and spewed out extremely powerful soul medicine. In fact, some light came over. Suyin and Long Daesung started to absorb and refine it. They benefited greatly. If they ate the three-world flower in one go, who knew how terrifying their essence spirit would be? This also proved that the damaged three-world flower was not on the same level as this one. They were not on the same level. The thunderous roar was filled with longing. The tattered lightning being's body emitted terrifying vitality. He seemed to want to stand up and cross the chaotic star island to pluck the three-world flower. Unfortunately, the aura he emitted was too majestic and shocking. It directly disturbed the blooming three-world flower, causing it to tremble slightly. The blooming flower quickly closed and no longer spewed out powerful soul chi. It was as if it was frightened. Long Daesung seemed to be very agitated. This lightning being was too despicable. The three-world flower must be terrified. Bastard! All of a sudden, angry voices resounded, exploding in the mysterious world of the kingdom. A living powerhouse. Suyin was shocked. What kind of secrets were hidden in the three-world mountain? There was a living powerhouse on the other side of the chaotic star island. It seemed like she was the guardian of the three-world flower. The chaotic star island domain rumbled violently as if a huge explosion had happened. Boom! Billions of waves also surged in the chaotic star island domain. Countless suns, moons, and stars were pulled down and smashed into the chaotic star island domain. Suyin clicked his tongue. As expected of the most powerful forbidden zone, there is actually a mysterious giant on the other side of the chaotic star island domain. She was even speaking, and it was obvious that she was a living supreme being. The chaotic star island domain was in chaos. This was too impressive. It was as if an invincible empress was reprimanding the heavens. It was as if she had suppressed the past and present. Her divine might was unparalleled. Looking at the other side of the chaotic star island domain, a dreamlike woman stood proudly in the mysterious world. She was like the most perfect fairy born from heaven and earth, flowing with immortal divine radiance. Su Yin was stunned. He had never seen such a beautiful woman. She was pure and flawless. She was devastatingly beautiful. Her eyes were misty, and they were sputtering with divine radiance. The woman's aura was too pure. She stood in the mysterious world and shouted angrily at the old giant surrounded by lightning. "Old thing, you must be tired of living." She was very angry. The three-world flower had not bloomed easily. In the end, this supreme being also wanted a share of it and interrupted the three-world flower's bloom. Long Dae-sung was a little frustrated. He felt that the woman was a little familiar, as if he had seen her somewhere before. Peak. Chapter 2138. A great fairy has fallen from the sky. Suyin wiped his cold sweat. The holy saintess was perfect, as if she had fallen from the heavens. Her might was too great. The supreme being floating in the chaotic star domain of the three-world mountain was terrifying beyond compare. It could be said to be the most ancient being in the three-world mountain. Who knew how many eras it had lived, waiting here for the three-world flower to bloom? In the end, the true guardian of the three-world flower appeared and directly rebuked it. It had to be said that this woman looked down on heaven and earth. Her magic power was boundless. She floated at the other end of the chaotic star domain as if she was the ruler of the land. But unfortunately, the holy saintess only appeared for a moment before disappearing at the other end of the star domain. Roar! The unmatched existence released a low roar, revealing an expression of fury. He was a young expert, yet he was reprimanded by a woman. The sea rumbled and danced wildly. His chest released a thunderous sound that shook heaven and earth. The sky changed color, and the world also changed color, turning into a true abyss of lightning. It revealed great fear, enough to blast down all the gods in the sky. Boom! The outside world was shocked. A huge storm erupted in the three-world battlefield. The dormant three-world mountain, under the influence of the supreme being, suddenly became extremely terrifying. There's a big guy inside. The Black King roared. He saw through the depths of the three-world mountain. Billions of lightning bolts struck down. Although it was quite far away, the black hole sensed a world-destroying power in Great Tao. The most powerful being in the Forbidden Zone caused chaos, disturbing the three-world battlefield. The bloody rivers and mountains were full of devastation. Corpses lay everywhere for billions of miles. War cries echoed. The bloody war had been going on for hundreds of years, but the war still hadn't stopped. The celestial court dominated the vast territory. The heavens were rebuilt, and the celestial the Arch Tao appeared. They reorganized the environment, tidied up the three-world mountain, and propped up the rear of the celestial court. This was the celestial court's strongest foundation. It was the place where the injured and disabled soldiers recuperated, the place where the race developed, and the place where the younger generation rose. Su Yin just went into the three-world mountain. What did he do? Did he encounter any danger? The sword ancestor's expression was uncertain. In fact, the outside of the three-world battlefield had become the Emperor burial ground. The collapse of the Order of the Three Realms was caused by the rupture of the three-world mountain. Something terrible must have happened in the distant past. Now that the three-world mountain was bombarding with all sorts of apocalyptic lightning, could it be that there was still a big shot who had survived the boundless tribulation in the three-world mountain? If he really did crawl out, things might become extremely bad. According to the sword ancestor's understanding, in the three-world mountain, in the complete and perfect background of the Great Era, the sacred giants who were qualified to be listed in the three-world mountain were the experts from the emperor clans in the three realms. However, the celestial court did not belong to the celestial realm, the dark realm, or the human realm. If there were any living old monsters, they would most likely become enemies with the celestial court. Roar! The great thunderous roar erupted. The sea of primal chaos changed color, turning into a massive lightning abyss. Terrifying origin, lightning flowed down. He's reviving, and his combat power is increasing. Su Yan's eyes widened. In the blink of an eye, he sensed an aura that transcended the prehistoric times and suddenly pressed down on this world. It had simply transcended an immeasurable amount of time. It was as if it had blasted over from the great era when the three realms originated. In an instant, the tattered lightning spirit's body blazed with divine might, as if the Lord of Lightning had been reborn. The void was trembling, and the great Tao was breaking apart. The environment was being replaced, and the power of lightning filled the sky. The only fortunate thing was that Su Yan blocked it with his giant axe, isolating this lightning world. Otherwise, he would have suffered a terrible calamity. The rolling lightning bolts were so numerous that they were innumerable. They interweaved together to form a sea of lightning, exuding a world-ending tribulation. In the blink of an eye, a passageway of lightning was opened. It was unfathomably deep. In the process, the lightning spirit roared, and blood flowed from its tattered body. He doesn't have much time left, Su Yan muttered. It seems like the three-world flower is his life-prolonging medicine. Su Yan was pondering. On the other end of the sea of primal chaos, just how many years had Holy Fairy and the lightning spirit fought? Or it could be said that they had never fought before, always occupying their own territory, protecting something. Bastard! Sure enough, on the other end of the sea of primal chaos, a furious voice resounded. Holy Fairy flew over like waves, instantly passing through the passageway opened up by the lightning spirit. She came, her figure closing in endlessly, becoming more and more terrifying and powerful. No matter how the lightning descended, Holy Fairy couldn't stop it. Her figure released a great amount of great creation energy, directly tearing apart the lightning that filled the sky. Roar! The lightning spirit roared, suddenly brandishing its large hand. Silver blood flowed, wrapped in heaven-overflowing symbols, murderously attacking Holy Fairy. A terrifying great collision. Holy Fairy brandished her white hand, as if she was splitting heaven and earth apart. The two large palms suddenly collided at the beginning and the end of the passageway, and the passageway directly exploded. It was a shocking scene. Once Holy Fairy exploded, gods and demons fell from the sky, and cultivators of the same cultivation level died one after another. She was like an unparalleled female immortal who had walked out from an immortal world, her might suppressing the world. Uff! The lightning spirit trembled. Its tattered palm was bleeding, and it almost exploded. It had suffered Holy Fairy's strongest attack, and its body staggered. The avatar all over its body was also destroyed, and the lightning around its body was also extinguished. He became very old, without any words, without any emotions. This woman was much more terrifying than before, and her strength had increased too quickly. On the other hand, Holy Fairy hadn't entered the chaotic star island domain. It seemed like it was extremely difficult for her to leave the world she was in. Her figure only caught a glimpse of her for a moment before hurriedly dispersing, as if she had never been here. Su Yan's mouth was dry. If he could get this holy and terrifying Holy Fairy to be on the same side, it would be truly amazing. As the passageway shattered, the sea of primal chaos was still the sea of primal chaos. As for the end, it was like time and space and heaven didn't exist at all. He couldn't see through any images, and it was completely chaotic and silent. Su Yan frowned. Could it be that he couldn't pass? Could it be that he can't hold on anymore? Such a terrifying being died, just like that. That palm just now wasn't enough to take his life, right? Then, Su Yan's heart trembled. The Supreme Being couldn't hold on anymore. Many large cracks appeared on its tattered body, and it was bleeding all over. The special silver blood densely covered its remains. Su Yan's heart rippled with shock. It seemed like he was about to die and pass away. Perhaps he was waiting here for the Three Realms flower to extend its life. However, he didn't have time to continue waiting. Its tattered body was torn into pieces, and its pores spewed out the luster of connate lightning. It was accompanied by the vast fluctuations of the origin of lightning, and it spread out mightily. He's dead. Did he die from anger, or did he melt? Su Yan's eyes widened. He felt that this world was too crazy. What kind of existence was this? He died just like that. This was truly ridiculous. Perhaps he really couldn't hold on any longer. Countless years had passed, and although he had passed the calamity, he was still powerless to reverse the situation. The boundless sea turned into an abyss of lightning. Resplendent luster rushed out, and there was no killing intent or order. It was as if lightning was born from heaven and earth and danced about. The outside world was in chaos. They sensed that a great change had taken place in Three Realms Mountain. The dome exploded, and blazing lightning radiance descended. Streak after streak of lightning was as vast as a sea of stars. It was as if they had turned into heaven-splitting lightning giants one after another. Time was approaching its end. These lightning giants collapsed one after another. Suddenly, a terrifying roar sounded from within Three Realms Mountain. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. The terrifying existence passed away. The commotion was too ridiculous, and it spread throughout the Three Realms battlefield. Su Yan's face darkened. The old monster didn't want to die. He was still struggling. However, he didn't have a chance. His tattered body completely collapsed, and his life source leaked outwards. Su Yan's eyes flashed with astonishment. He realized that Three Realms Mountain was declining. I understand now. The Three Realms Mountain is a forbidden zone of life because of this mysterious chaos sea and the lightning creature's combined influence. That's why it's a land of death. Su Yan observed the situation of the heavens and earth and saw some clues. As the lightning creatures rapidly declined, the chaotic Star Island was also on the verge of collapse. However, Su Yan still had some doubts. Did the Three Realms Mountain have a master? The Dark World was also in an uproar. A shocking change had occurred in Three Realms Mountain, causing great chaos. Some ancestral gods sensed that the aura of a giant in the depths of Three Realms Mountain was weakening and collapsing. It was about to completely disappear. A group of strongest ancestral gods was preparing for an ultimate battle. They woke up a group of strongest ancestral gods from their slumber. Destroy the Celestial Court. The Three Realms battlefield belongs to the Dark World. Ancestral god Tian Li and the others went crazy. This matter was too big. They had never thought that such a day would come. The changes in Three Realms Mountain were too great. This forbidden zone of life was declining. It was very likely that it would completely disappear. When the Dark World ruled the Three Realms battlefield, they tried to rebuild it. Unfortunately, they failed. The main reason was that the damaged Three Realms Mountain had a terrifying restrictive influence. The various supreme royal families and factions of the Dark World were all shocked by the emergency recruitment order. The Dark World was going crazy like never before. They wanted to use all their resources to destroy the Celestial Court. That was because once the Three Realms Mountain disappeared, the reconstruction of the Three Realms core environment would be complete and perfect. This had a huge impact on their future strategy. If the Celestial Court occupied the core area of the Three Realms, they could send troops to the Celestial World and Dark World at any time. No one doubted that once the Celestial Court was rebuilt in the core area of the Three Realms, how much hope would there be to attack them? After all, the Celestial Court had the Celestial Thearcha's legacy guarding its providence. Kill. Terrifying auras spread across the Dark World. Old antiques that had been sleeping for a long time crawled out from the ground. Even tens of millions of years ago, the Tao Celestial Thearch attacked the Dark World and heavily injured its upper echelons. Among them, there was a group of withered ancestral gods that had survived. They defied the heavens and woke up. They roared crazily, wanting to take revenge. Only by destroying the Celestial Court can the Three Realms be unified. If the celestial court destroys the dark world, they can also be unified. The sea region surrounded by boundless black fog was boundless. A black-clothed woman with short hair to her ears was faintly discernible in the sea region. Her deep eyes stared at the outside world, unperturbed from beginning to end. In the sea region filled with ghostly chi, the luster of purgatory flowed. This place could be called a true, scattered purgatory. Endless dark matter surged and rippled throughout the dark world space-time. Chapter 2139. The Three-World Mountain was in complete chaos. This life-forbidden zone was in an endless decline. An ocean of lightning surged out from the depths, one after another. It was as if it had gushed out from the deepest part of the universe. It was boundless and had already spread beyond the mountain, destroying the vast space-time. It had completely turned into a lightning abyss. Anyone who touched it would die. Big Brother's expression was grave as he gazed in the direction of the Three-World Mountain. A huge change had occurred there. A terrifying giant seemed to be passing away. Unfortunately, they didn't have time to investigate now. The dark world had completely gone mad. One after another, the strongest ancestor gods with declining chi and blood walked out from the dark world. Their roars shook the heavens and shook the great world. The strongest monarch of the celestial world said in a low voice, "They've gone mad. They've opened up their ultimate reserve. It seems like something big has happened in the Three-World Mountain. We must stop them. We can't let the experts of the dark world get close to the Three-World Mountain." One had to know that immortal Emperor Zong had killed ancestor god Xinyu in the Three-World Mountain. Since then, he hadn't come out. The sudden change in the Three-World Mountain was definitely related to Su Yan. "What did you say?" Big Black was shocked. Small Pagoda had transmitted to them that there was the aura of the master of the celestial court in the Three-World Mountain. Previously, Su Yan had been awakened by the mysterious jar. Then, the master of the celestial court had once gone to the Three-World Mountain and even left behind deep footprints. Big Black's expression was uncertain. Could it be that the master of the celestial court had left from the Three-World Mountain? If this conjecture was possible, then there might be a passage in the Three-World Mountain. It might be related to ending the burial ground, wretched Earth world. This was a huge matter. Big Brother and the others were on guard. The experts of the dark world came in batches and attacked without any regard for their lives. It seemed like a large-scale battle was about to break out. The Space-Time Emperor ordered the whole army to defend and delay the dark world as much as possible. They didn't want to charge head-on. This was to prevent the dark world from completely going mad. When the time came, once they attacked by force, the celestial court would suffer a heavy blow. They had already occupied more than half of the three-world battlefield. It had only been 100 years. They already saw the light of victory in this battle. Thus, they weren't anxious. The dark world was anxious. Once the celestial court occupied the entire three-world battlefield. On that day, the myriad realms would cover the three realms battlefield and reorganize the environment. This indicated that the celestial court would control the core of the three realms and could send troops to the immortal realm and the dark realm at any time. After all, with the myriad worlds and the cauldron, once the environment was expanded, it would signify the beginning of the era of the strongest celestial court. The dark world strength was also unquestionable. There was a group of ultimate treasures that turned into a boundless black flood, killing intent overflowing into the heavens. "Oh, Long Daesong cried out. In the space of the sea of chaos, there were countless lightning substances flowing about. These substances were all too high-end, like rare great tonics, like lightning emperor medicines, emitting the aura of great creation. Without a doubt, the unmatched giant died, its tattered body breaking apart, scattering down a boundless sea of lightning. Roar! Long Daesong opened its mouth and swallowed the lightning substances that filled the sky, one mouthful after another. It was as if it was swallowing the origin of lightning. With each mouthful, Long Daesong's body became resplendent. It was as if it was going to tear apart the peak emperor's bottleneck and advance in Emperor Judy. However, Long Daesung swallowed more than 10 mouthfuls. Its body was about to explode, and it was in so much pain that it shed tears. It was trembling as if it was poisoned to death. White foam flowed out of its mouth, almost taking its old life. This substance looked incomparably high-end, but it actually contained harmful substances. Of course, it wasn't really harmful, it was just too high-end. If an emperor's origin were to fall, if it landed on a mortal's body, the mortal would immediately shatter and be refined to death. Now, Long Daesung was experiencing such a dangerous situation. Lightning was wreaking havoc in its flesh, tearing apart its skin and flesh. Large patches of scales fell off its body. The scene was a bit too horrible to look at. Long Daesung was going to be hacked to death. Su Yin was worried, but he immediately sensed that even though this substance could threaten Long Daesung, it wasn't a tempering process. After all, a 10 transformations true dragon's potential was matchless. It had already condensed an emperor body, so it wouldn't be poisoned to death. On the contrary, if it refined this lightning essence, it would obtain considerable benefits. Sky-opening lightning scripture. Su Yan's eyes also reveal madness. An unmatched giant died in meditation, accompanied by the release of the lightning Great Tao's origin matter. If he could steal a portion, then this would be extremely formidable. It would be enough to strengthen his emperor body greatly. Su Yan's chest shone. After all, the scripture he operated was of the same origin as this unmatched giant. Su Yan opened its mouth, swallowing mouthful after mouthful. Every mouthful was like swallowing lightning and raging flames. Its entire body was unbearably hot, as if it was being burned, but also as if it was being calcined in a furnace. It crazily absorbed large amounts of matter, and its entire body directly split apart. Its flesh split open, and fresh blood dripped out. It was a ghastly sight. It was even worse than Long Daesung's. After all, it had absorbed too much. Boom! Su Yan's primordial spirit awakened, stabilizing the rotten flesh shell. With the sky opening lightning scripture's energy, it stimulated the lightning source in his body. He grasped the grand thunder Great Tao and comprehended the power of lightning that could split open the heavens. This was a great opportunity. Even though there were harmful substances, it was still a great medicine to extract its essence. 1. Su Yan's body was burning. In fact, this was a tempering process. In a short period of time, he experienced billions of lightning strikes striking his flesh shell. His emperor body was filled with vigorous heavenly power, like a supreme god born from destructive lightning. Awesome, awesome. Su Yan growled. He was in pain, but he seemed incomparably crazy. He stole the life essence of a powerhouse of this level to temper his emperor body. The blood essence in his body was quickly filled and exuberant. Even his emperor body excreted a large amount of impurities, and his body became sparkling and resplendent. It was as if a terrifying emperor had reincarnated here, roaring in the sea of lightning, strengthening his emperor origin. In a short period of time, he actually tore through the barrier of a realm. Su Yin broke through and stepped into the 8th heaven of absolute emperor. This was too shocking. If news of this spread out, who would dare to believe it? Even the lightning supreme giant began to fall faster. His tattered flesh shell, his arm was broken, and he fell to the ground. His arm was like a supreme treasure of heaven and earth. It actually turned into a damaged stone arm. It was like a huge mountain range lying horizontally in the sea of chaos, gushing with innate lightning essence. His thigh bone also rolled down. It was excessively heavy, gushing with terrifying lightning essence, turning into a land of death. It was unknown how the supreme giant was injured. His body continued to disintegrate, and he would occasionally let out sorrowful roars. After an entire day and night, this supreme overlord's life finally came to an end. His body disintegrated, and when his head also burst apart, a terrifying soul fire burned in his forehead. He is still alive. There is still a trace of psyche left. Su Yan's eyes suddenly opened. The blood in his body boiled, and his roar shook the great world. Every time Absolute Emperor broke through a realm, Su Yan's battle prowess rose by a level. He was only a minor realm away from the peak. Su Yan's black hair draped over his shoulders, and his divine eyes were like lightning. Boom! The sound of thunder exploded, and the incomplete spiritual power sputtered out along the collapsed knowledge sea. Its aura instantly became incomparably terrifying. An extremely terrifying shadow filled the entire world. It was majestic and intimidating. Billions of lightning surrounded his shadow, as if it was formed by the ruler of lightning. It emitted an incomparably ancient aura as it charged towards Su Yan. "You want to take over my body?" Su Yan shouted coldly as the blood in his body churned. He glared angrily at the incomplete mental energy that was charging at him and shouted, "Although I've absorbed some of your fortune, you can't take my life and take over my body." The shadow was terrifying, but it was still damaged psyche. Su Yan's aura flashed like lightning, and his Yuan Shun was chanting the heaven-opening scripture. He emitted an outstanding power and formed a unique environment. The world instantly blocked the damaged psyche that invaded his sea of consciousness. Boom! The thunderbolts that filled the sky rumbled and exploded beside Su Yan. Its might was rather shocking. Su Yan used the heaven-opening scripture to protect his Tao and blocked the lightning from invading. Next, he realized that the damaged psyche of the supreme giant had condensed into a terrifying shadow, and it emitted a great aura that wanted to invade Su Yan's sea of consciousness. Is this the strongest heaven-opening thunder scripture? Su Yan looked up. The great world had changed, and the environment had been refined, forming a massive vortex of thunder that spewed out the supreme great Tao of thunder. It was as if a giant shadow had come howling from the end of the long river of time. It emitted the light of the origin of thunder, and it shone on Su Yan's body. In that instant, Su Yan's body trembled. The preface of the scripture flashed in his body, and an ancient life force flowed out. It wanted to invade Su Yan's body, cut off his memories, and turn him into another person. Long Daesong cried out in unease. Su Yan was about to become another person, and his body Tao fruit was about to be stolen away. Scram! Su Yan roared. His black hair danced in the wind, and his essence, energy, and soul were incomparably terrifying. He waved his fist, and his body suppressed the heaven-opening scripture's order, cutting off its influence. Su Yan didn't specialize in the heaven-opening thunder scripture, but he borrowed a part of it to walk his own path. At the same time, he felt a chill run down his spine. This old monster's skills were truly heaven-defying. If he had specialized in the heaven-opening thunder scripture, his body would have been directly taken over just now. After all, Su Yan's physical body's memories were nothing compared to the old monster's experiences. Once his physical body was instantly occupied, Su Yan's primordial spirit would not be destroyed, but his physical body would no longer belong to him. Wong. His primordial spirit erupted endlessly, and punch after punch erupted with the Emperor's suppression art. The fist radiance of each punch formed a lifelike heaven-suppressing small figure one after another. The small figures might suppress the universe, and it suppressed the great Tao of the heavens. Su Yan unleashed 10 Emperor suppression arts consecutively. In the end, his primordial spirit burned, and his soul energy surged. 10 lifelike small figures of war gods were born. It was as if the heavens suppressing the arch had awakened. Su Yan's primordial spirit was about to be exhausted. From the peak to the decline, the 10 Emperor suppression arts temporarily imprisoned the lightning spirit's remnant spirit. In the end, he slashed out with his giant axe and completely tore his primordial spirit's remnant spirit apart. This great world exploded, and the rolling lightning bolts that descended tore apart the chaos sea, creating a huge rift valley. Su Yan took in a deep breath. An incomplete mental will had nearly killed him. He couldn't help but be shocked. How powerful was this person? How terrifying was he when he was alive? How much was he related to the three-world mountain? Could it be that the 10 great heaven-opening scriptures were all supreme giants of this level? Boom! The world was shattered, and the chaotic Star Island was unstable. The scene was extremely terrifying. Every lightning bolt contained a terrifying aura of destruction. This chaos sea world sank, as if a mysterious origin world had been opened. Su Yin and Long Daesong charged into the collapsed chaos and arrived at a brand new world. What kind of environment was this? Was this the complete appearance of the three-world mountain? This place flowed with the light of heaven opening, and it emitted a strange creation substance. It was also filled with the aura of a great life. He clenched his fists, and the blood in his body boiled. Su Yan's the archbody trembled. It was as if it had transformed into a complete heavenly embryo, and then into a brand new Su Yan. At this moment, it was as if he had arrived at the place where he was born and raised. This is the place where I was born, the place where I originated. Su Yan suddenly fell silent. He had arrived at his destination, the place where he originated. His emotions were extremely complicated. He was about to reveal the truth. FBZW. Chapter 2140. The underwater world emitted the fluctuations of the origin of all life. The air here was abnormally pure, untainted by the mortal world. There were no impurities. The underwater world was like a newborn world, untainted by the mortal world. Su Yin couldn't help but exclaim, "What a magical world! It's like the universe was formed at the beginning. The Tao is natural, and the world is pure. There are no other factors, nor are there any great Tao imprints of living beings. The world's life essence was exuberant, so dense that it almost turned into liquid." Su Yan's pores relaxed as he absorbed the pure spirit essence of this world. His entire body seemed to have been baptized, and his body became pure and flawless. His chi and blood were exuberant, like a natural furnace. Of course, this wouldn't be of much help to Su Yin, but for experts who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, this world was enough to be called the strongest holy land. What a miraculous world, preserved until now. Su Yan's eyes scanned the surroundings. The world was vast, and the rivers and mountains were magnificent. This was a rare cultivation holy land. Was this the complete appearance of the three-world mountain? Rumble. At this moment, lightning rolled down from the sky, and the corpses of the peerless beings of lightning also fell down. Countless innate lightning, accompanied by the origin essence, interweave densely, forming a natural lightning world. It floated up and down in this world, as if it had turned into a lightning paradise. To form a lightning treasure land, this person is really powerful. Su Yan's deep eyes focused. It was suspected that the sky-opening lightning scripture had created a natural lightning world. This was a great land of fortune, and it was of great help to experts who cultivated the Tao of lightning. Of course, there were harmful substances, and they had to be purified and refined further. Just now, Su Yin had used the breakthrough to become an 8th heaven emperor. His emperor body was also tempered, and his strength soared greatly. The harvest was not small. At this moment, Long Daesong was hibernating, continuing to absorb the lightning energy. It was very close to breaking through to Emperor Realm. In a few more days, Daesong will be able to cultivate to Emperor Realm. Su Yin stepped into the world of thunder and lightning. His eyes scanned the surroundings. There were huge thunder and lightning rocks, majestic mountains that were densely covered with thunder and lightning marks, and thick, strange rocks. These things seemed to be fragments of supreme treasures. All of them flowed with the essence of lightning, containing the mysteries of the origin of thunder. Moreover, the stone bodies were covered with dense lines of lightning, as if they were diagrams of the great Tao. These were all formed from the severed bodies of thunder and lightning beings. Su Yin was silent. He pondered and came to a shocking conclusion. Could it be that this is a legacy? Perhaps the heaven-splitting lightning titan hadn't died, and what fell just now was his remains, forged from a supreme treasure that was hard to find in this world. Perhaps he was really dead, but his real body was born and nurtured by the heavens. Su Yan's emotions were complicated. This world gave him a very special feeling. Every drop of his blood was boiling, and his body was filled with excitement. It was as if he had returned to his mother's womb, to the world that gave birth to him. Su Yin sighed. He didn't want to look into it. I've arrived at my destination, but I don't have the courage to see the truth. What's wrong with me? Isn't this the answer I've been bitterly searching for all this time, so that I can give myself a complete explanation? Su Yin was disappointed and frustrated. He had cultivated for thousands of years and was already a famous powerhouse of the three realms. But now, as he faced the land of his life's origin, he didn't have the courage to explore it. At this moment, I can't shrink back. I should accept any truth. Su Yin clenched his fists. His breathing was a bit heavy as he walked towards the distant world. Vast rivers and mountains, flowing springs and waterfalls. Spiritual energy was exuberant, and flowers and trees were everywhere, full of vitality. The underwater world could be called a paradise. Hazy immortal fog and dense spiritual energy filled the air. Rare and precious medicines were bred here. They were like cabbages that could be found everywhere. Unfortunately, there were no emperor medicines or supreme medicines. Along the way, he discovered many veins. With his heaven's eye, he could see that there was heaven and earth source energy growing within them. This left Su Yin amazed. The immortal materials that had been bred here for a long time were incredible. If they were dug out, they could be used to forge immortal weapons that filled the skies. This was a huge world of treasures. No one had mined and excavated it for a long time, forming a mystical world full of treasures. If he could obtain all of this when he was young, he would naturally be wild with joy. The treasures that could enter Su Yan's eyes were already quite limited. Along the way, the blood essence in his body boiled more and more intensely. The 10 precious blood even passed through his flesh and surrounded his body. It made him look like the emperor of 10 colors. Returning to his homeland, it caused this great world to resonate with him. The 10-colored precious blood suddenly erupted to the extreme, reflecting the scene of the return of the emperors. It even produced a deep resonance with this world. The earth throbbed along with it. Endless essence surged into the sky and then fell down, drowning the 9 heavens. The extremely sacred world began to rumble because of Su Yan's return. In an instant, Su Yan let out a loud roar. His blood was stimulated to the extreme. The great world began to change, turning into a great world of emperors. It reflected the scene of prehistory. It was as if the complete era of the three-world mountain had taken shape. There was a supreme pressure that crossed the river of history. The indistinct world appeared across time and space. Su Yan's primordial spirit trembled. He saw the pulse of the earth erupt, turning into streaks of blood essence that flowed along the dragon veins on the ground. In the end, it connected to a place where life was nurtured. 9-colored immortal splendor pervaded this place. It was nurtured by seizing the good fortune of heaven and earth. It was full of the scene of the beginning of heaven and earth. Su Yin arrived. He stood on top of a piece of wasteland. The world was brightly colored, gorgeous, and varied. Even though it was wasteland, soil without any value, it contained an indescribable aura. It was as if it was a part of Su Yan's body. His blood was formed from the essence of the earth. It turned into the meridians of the human body, forming the 9-colored precious liquid. It's here. Su Yan's breathing was heavy. Looking at this wasteland world, he felt an endless sense of familiarity. He could feel his origin, the origin of his life. Replay, Su Yan roared. His scattered black hair danced in the wind. His terrifying essence energy overflowed into the heavens. 10-colored precious blood emerged from the flesh shell. Drop after drop surged in the void. Soon after, they went berserk, as if they turned into 10 great cosmos, great stars. They rumbled and rotated, tearing apart heaven and earth, opening up the river of time. He was tracing back to his past, investigating his origins. This world was changing. In the 9-colored wasteland world, time was flowing in reverse, developing towards the complete era. It was as if the most powerful environment was returning. Heaven and earth changed greatly, the environment changed greatly, the atmosphere changed greatly. Storms surged, releasing woo-woo sounds. It was as if the heavens were crying, as if ghosts were weeping. This was a world-shaking scene. Su Yin used the heaven-opening scripture to replay this world. In the end, the great world changed. The nine-colored wasteland world was reconstructed, turning into a boundless nine-colored great earth. Above, it was an enormous, wondrous stone. It seized the natural luck of heaven and earth, gathering the source of the great earth. After experiencing the vicissitudes of time and eras, it gradually developed. During this process, Su Yin coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. He endured the terrifying heavenly might, withstanding the test of time, encountering the endless great killing tribulation. The boundless 10,000 tribulations that crossed time and space completely suppressed toward Su Yin. They were all going to die. I want to go over. Su Yin roared angrily. The emperor's origin in his body burned, and the essence blood in his body erupted. His emperor's body was blazing and terrifying, resisting the supreme suppression of heaven and earth. Immortal Emperor Zong unleashed his strongest power, causing this world to collapse. Although he couldn't go back to the past and present, it shouldn't be too difficult to see some scenes. Open. I want to see everything clearly. Su Yin roared. His chi and blood boiled. He was majestic and domineering as he punched forward. At this moment, he unleashed his strongest foundation and destroyed a corner of the endless calamity. Finally, the reconstruction reached the most critical moment. Boom! With a loud bang, heaven and earth exploded in a ridiculous manner. An extremely imposing figure appeared and filled the space-time of the past. The scene that Su Yin traced also shattered in an instant. Puff! The terrifying recoil caused Su Yan's flesh to split open. His body cracked, and his emperor's blood splattered. He stumbled and fell to the ground. He roared in pain. The feeling of dying filled his heart, but it couldn't compare to the bitterness in his heart. The long river of history involved extremely terrifying giants and was forced to stop. However, there was no point in continuing to watch. He found the most primitive origin of life. He came from heaven and earth, from the three-world mountain. He was a living being nurtured by heaven and earth. Was it because of the great changes in the three-world mountain that caused him to suffer a calamity and leave? I'm a living being of heaven and earth. I have no parents. That's good too. If you tell me that I have parents now, I'm afraid it'll be hard to accept. I finally got the answer. It's actually because of the three-world mountain. Su Yin wiped his tears. His eyes were red. Su Yin silently accepted this reality. He looked at this wasteland world. Who destroyed this place? Su Yin's injuries were severe. He stumbled as he got up. The blood flowing in his body dyed this wasteland world. Suddenly, because of the blood flowing out of his body, this world lit up. The wasteland seemed to have gained vitality and started to awaken. Su Yin was surprised. Could it be that this wasteland hadn't been completely broken? Soon, this world changed. The 10-colored blood flowing out of the human body completely changed this world. The wasteland was reshaped, condensed, and turned into a 9-colored territory. In the central region, a short broken mountain appeared. It was less than half a foot tall. Su Yin walked up step by step. He stretched out his trembling hand and touched the broken mountain. Mother's fetus. The broken mountain seemed to have been cut by a weapon. An inexplicable chill still existed. He was once cut by someone, which caused the destruction of the heavenly fetus. Perhaps the Su Yin of that era did not have any spiritual will at all. He had only just formed when he met with a great calamity and was cut by a blade and broken. Could it be that Bury the Heavens had taken him away? This conjecture was most likely true. After the collapse of the three-world mountain, Bury the Heavens had taken Su Yin to the human world and laid him at the top of the sky burying cave to be reborn. Does this count as my origin? Su Yin suddenly smiled. He moved his body and sat on the broken mountain. He had his back to the world, and his figure suddenly looked a little lonely. There was a living being who encountered one calamity after another. The process involved the vast river of history. It was the ancient history of the three-world. Three-world mountain, sky-burying cave, chaos pagoda, back progenitor, sky-burying sea. Time after time, many epochs passed, a long period of time passed. Bury the heavens, Tao, celestial emperor. Two powerhouses had once protected his life. At this moment, he had returned to the origin, to the most ancient origin. Life is really dramatic. Su Yin sighed. His black hair fluttered and his body bled. He kept reaching out his palm and touching the short mountain. It was obvious. He could sense that there was some thin substance in the mountain. It was a substance that once belonged to him. Buzz. Su Yin's body bloomed with life essence. His figure seemed to have merged with the broken mountain. At this moment, Su Yin felt that he had changed. He had turned into an ancient living being. Boom! The short mountain immediately surged with blazing light. The short mountain, which was already dried up, suddenly spewed out a ball of nine-colored immortal radiance. It was brilliant and sparkling. It didn't look very exuberant, but it revealed the great mysteries of the origin of life. Su Yin swallowed the red clouds, swallowing the energy. It was a very magical feeling. It was as if a person's life providence had been perfected and his physique had been perfected. He had returned to the most ancient and powerful era. At this moment, Su Yin discovered that he was even more ancient. He had become the most primitive and ancient living being. He had accompanied the origin of the three-world, but he had lived in this era for only a few thousand years. Su Yin was silent for 3 days and 3 nights. His body had changed. His physique had grown, and he was very strong. Su Yin's strength had also increased. It was as if he was born with it. There was no discomfort, nor were there any flaws. He felt that he was the most powerful living being. Boom! Su Yin had turned into a king among emperors. He suddenly let out a long roar, and a huge projection appeared behind him. It filled the sky and was extremely majestic. This was the release of an extremely terrifying power. In an instant, he had reached the peak of the 9 heavens. The huge projection was indomitable. It looked down on the vast universe and intimidated all living beings. The sun, moon, and stars revolved around his projection. They were as insignificant as dust. This scene was extremely terrifying. Su Yin felt that he was invincible. "Break again!" Su Yin shouted. His body shook violently. The complete heavenly embryo emitted a power that could intimidate all living beings. His aura was forced into an extremely terrifying realm. It was as if he had broken through the shackles of heaven and earth. He had broken through the strongest shackles and climbed into the strongest domain. His body was exuberant and resplendent. A huge amount of undying energy interweaved within. It shook the underwater world and filled every inch of time and space. In a short period of time, Su Yan's emperor body erupted and forced him toward the strongest emperor. Of course, this wasn't the strongest emperor in the true sense. Su Yin had only stimulated his strongest potential for a short period of time and had the battle strength of the emperor equal to heaven. With a raise of his hand, heaven and earth resonated, suppressing the universe. This aura was too shocking. He could destroy the universe with a raise of his hand. He could melt the sun, moon, and stars with a puff of air. This is the strongest emperor. My physical body can temporarily possess the battle prowess of the strongest martial emperors. Su Yan's eyes were like lightning. He could feel the power and terror of this realm. His figure blended with heaven and earth, as if he had become the master of heaven and earth. Boom! The entire world resonated with his explosive battle strength. The environment of this world was the beginning of heaven and earth. There were no strong beings that could affect it. Hence, Su Yin could control the environment at any time. The emperor, equal to heaven, was as high as heaven and earth. He controlled the universe's environment. Of course, Su Yin couldn't be considered the emperor equal to heaven in the true sense. However, he had the ability to reverse his battle strength for a short period of time. It had to be said that life was walking towards perfection, and potential was walking towards the ultimate domain. Su Yan's battle strength was too tyrannical. It filled the universe, powerful and peerless. Perhaps when Su Yan stepped into the ninth heaven of absolute emperor, he could maintain the strongest emperor state. In the next moment, Su Yan's expression changed slightly. He blended with this great world on a deeper level and sensed that there was another cultivation environment on the other side of the world. When Su Yan tried his best to observe and spy, he felt a sense of familiarity. On the other side of the world, the cultivation environment was different from here. Soon, a blurry shadow of Su Yan emitted a terrifying supreme might. It crossed the boundless great world and a long river of history. Step by step, it finally walked towards this era. The footsteps approached. Su Yan felt that he had come and was approaching him, an extremely terrifying powerhouse. The sound of each step was like billions of heavy hammers smashing into his body and mind. He was shocked. What kind of powerhouse was this? He was even more terrifying than a supreme lightning creature. In the end, Su Yan cried out in surprise and stood up abruptly. What was that? A supreme heavenly emperor walked over, looking down on the great world and the three realms. Separated by civilizations, they looked at each other from a distance. It's the Tao Celestial Emperor. He's on the other side, very close to me. Su Yan shouted, his blood surging. Peak. Chapter 2141. On the other side of the underwater world, there was a civilized world. That was the supreme Tao technique of the Tao Celestial Emperor. It occupied the other side of the world, outlining a terrifying figure. The aura it emitted was shocking, terrifying, and supreme. So powerful, Su Yan exclaimed. The heaven-defying power crossed time and space and forced its way into this world. The Celestial Emperor appeared and looked down on everything. The civilized world he created pressured with waves of supreme power. It was as if it was about to destroy the world. It was as if it was reshaping the underwater world and assimilating it. It also had an inviolable dignity. No one could get close. Once they got close, they would be targeted and killed. Only the leader can do this. Only when he is terrifying enough can he change everything. Only then can he rewrite everything. Only then can he make everyone follow his Tao. This is the leader. This is the ruler above all. He transcends the Tao, leads the Tao, and creates the civilization of heaven and earth. The environment that Su Yan had created seemed weak and small. It was trembling and shaking, and even the great Tao was rumbling. At this moment, the Celestial Emperor revealed his Tao, forcing the system Su Yan created to disintegrate. Even his was affected. The Celestial Emperor's Tao was supreme. Even this world was about to be assimilated. Gradually, Su Yan's aura was retracted. His figure disappeared from the environment. His cultivation level fell from the Emperor equal to Heaven Realm. This world returned to its original appearance. It was still so pure and flawless. There was no aura of life. As expected, the Celestial Emperor's Tao also fell silent. It no longer appeared and no longer appeared. The experience just now was very dangerous. In fact, Su Yan could have been killed in an instant. This also imperceptibly gave Su Yan great guidance. He saw through many flaws and became even more determined. He had to become the emperor equal of heaven in the immortal world and blend in with the greater environment. Only then could he go further. Su Yan walked towards the long day song. At the same time, he was thinking. The experience just now deepened Su Yan's understanding of the civilization of heaven and earth. If one day the dark world completed the unification of the three worlds, then the dark world would obtain the entire three worlds. This was outrageous and inconceivable. Similarly, when the immortal world was unified, or when the celestial court was unified, they could unify the three realms. This was the path of universal civilization. It was too profound to talk about, and Su Yan could understand it. However, if he were to talk about it, he would not be able to explain it. Roar. Su Yan crossed the universe and let out a long roar. Su Yan's mood was a little complicated, but but his thoughts soon became clear. He had an answer to his biggest question. Suyin was in a good mood. His spiritual energy was especially full and vigorous, as if he had been reborn, born and nurtured by the heavens. It seems like they are also plagued with misfortune. Big Brother once said so. I, Suyin, have experienced countless catastrophes. My path has been bumpy, and I've reached this point. Who knows how many times I've been in desperate straits. In the future, I will pursue a stronger domain. Suyan's entire body emitted immortal splendor. Divine light flourished like an emperor that illuminated the world, walking with a majestic gait. The might became more and more powerful. The greatest fetters were severed, and a new life was completed. Daesung has broken through. In the world of thunder, Daesung had absorbed a large amount of matter and had begun to evolve. The 10 transformations, true dragon walked towards the absolute emperor domain. 10 dragons revolved around Long Daesung's body, emitting a peerless and supreme heavenly might. When the 10 dragons merged into one and returned to Daesung's body, a terrifying and boundless might welcomed a great explosion. This supreme heavenly might was a true, complete 10 transformations true dragon. Its aura shook the heavens and the earth, and this world was rumbling. Once the absolute combat power erupted, it would drown this sacred world. Long Daesung rushed out. Its golden pupils were deep, and it was a little dazed. It was also a little complicated and profound. Suyin was shocked. Was Long Daesung's lost memories about to return? However, it was a pity that Long Daesung was like a child that had just grown up. It had returned to its former self. It shook its head and ran over, howling and excitedly rushing toward Suyin. Suyin sighed in his heart. This was a little unfair to Long Daesung. However, Suyin felt that Long Daesung was doing very well now. There were no distracting thoughts and no fetters. In the future, he would definitely become the strongest emperor. I wonder what that soil is. Suyin frowned. Fairy Xixia was saved by that soil, and so was Long Daesung. This indicated that the stronger one's cultivation was, the more they would forget. Perhaps Long Daesung's lost memories would never be recovered. Daesung, let's go. Suyin laughed loudly. The brothers began to advance towards the other side of the world. Along the way, Long Daesung chewed on many rare, treasured medicines with relish. After all, he had just become an absolute emperor and needed a long time to settle down. These treasure medicines could strengthen his physical body. Suyin also picked countless treasure medicines. His harvest was too rich. He didn't want to stay for too long. There were more important things in the outside world. He had to quickly understand everything and return as soon as possible. When things are over, I must forge a weapon that belongs to me, Suyin secretly said in his heart. No matter how strong the giant axe was, it wasn't refined by him. Now he was rich and had many rare materials. There were even priceless immortal treasures in this world. He could completely forge it into a life weapon that would accompany him as he grew. In the future, it could also be passed down and become the most precious treasure of the Su family. My mentality has changed. Suyin suddenly laughed. He completely thought of himself as the patriarch of the Su family, wanting to leave something behind for the family's inheritance. We're here. Suyin's eyes narrowed. They were already close to the end of the universe. However, the moment they were about to cross over, they encountered a terrifying obstruction. It was as if they were about to barge into a grand world civilization. Experts who didn't belong to this civilization would be instantly wiped out once they entered by mistake. It's also because of this that the sky-splitting Thunder Titan can't get close to the area where the three-realm flower grows. Suyin secretly said in his heart. The great Tao of the Celestial Emperor was extremely domineering. It cut across heaven and earth, isolating the three-realm mountain outside and occupying a pure world. If it wasn't for the great Tao of the Celestial Emperor suppressing this place, perhaps the great Tao of the Thunder Titan would have already killed his way in. Suyin used the heavenly eye to observe and captured the majestic aura of the sealed realm. It would block any cultivator who wanted to barge in. Buzz! Su Yan's body glowed as he circulated the initial sutra. His entire aura changed. As expected, the world in front of him no longer blocked Su Yan. He could enter safely. Even Long Daesung wasn't blocked. One man and one horse rushed in and arrived at a magnificent world. It was a condensed world, a small universe environment, filled with the strongest great Tao of the Celestial Emperor. In this world, Su Yan even sensed extremely profound fluctuations of the great Tao. Billions of strands surged and penetrated Su Yan's body. He suddenly had the illusion that he had severed his own great Tao to cultivate the great Tao of the Celestial Emperor. Su Yan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. This wasn't an ordinary world. It was very likely that before the master of the Celestial Court left the three realms, he had cultivated here for a long time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a terrifying influence. Even this special world had the imprint of the great Tao. This directly proved that the ancient celestial emperors had cultivated here for a very long time and opened up an environment of universal civilization to suppress the entire three-realm mountain. Su Yan seriously sensed and savored it. He discovered that it was somewhat different from the other worlds. Of course, Su Yan couldn't completely understand it. Perhaps the celestial emperor had strengthened himself and reenacted his own cultivation path. A huge land of treasures. Su Yan took a deep breath. This world was definitely the best cultivation environment. It was opened up by the master of the Celestial Court. Because he had cultivated for a long time, this world was tainted with his aura. Even the great Tao was created by him. This place would definitely become the birthplace of the Celestial Court's important experts in the years to come. This world was very big and vast. Along the way, Su Yan discovered some three-realm patios. They were places where energy gushed out, causing this world's spiritual essence to be excessively vigorous. Su Yan speculated that this was the deepest part of the three-realm mountain. It was once dilapidated, but the master of the Celestial Court had used his great abilities to recreate this world. Oh, Long Daesung cried out loudly and pointed its claws into the distance. The three-realm flower is about to bloom. Su Yan trembled violently and ran madly toward the destination. Which supreme giant would want to absorb the three-realm flower? This was definitely the world's most powerful emperor medicine. The three-realm flower had already begun to bloom. The entire world was filled with soul medicine essence. Bit by bit, it could be said that a vast rain of living beings was sprinkling down. Whether it was Long Daesung or Su Yan, their primordial spirits were strengthening because of the absorption of these substances. What a powerful three realms flower. The incomplete three realms flower I obtained back then was cultivated through other means. As for this three realms flower, it must have been cultivated by the master of the heavenly court. Su Yan's primordial spirit in his forehead was surging resplendently. It was like a complete emperor's flesh and blood, emitting the order of the heaven-opening scripture and strengthening the origin essence. His primordial spirit was strengthening at an abnormal speed as he breathed in and out. However, during the absorption process, Long Daesung cried out in pain. The three-realm flower bloomed. The sacred and huge tricolored flower bud was half in bloom. The soul medicine essence that gushed out was vigorous and terrifying. It contained a danger that could melt one's soul. Long Daesung was in extreme pain. His primordial spirit felt like it was evaporating and was about to turn into a rain of energy light. Su Yan's expression changed. Long Daesung's primordial spirit wasn't strong enough to withstand the three-realm flower's strongest baptism. If he wasn't careful, his primordial spirit would be in danger of falling. On the contrary, after thousands of years of enlightenment, Su Yan's primordial spirit was relatively strong. Moreover, because he had absorbed some soul medicine essence, Su Yan's primordial spirit was blazing and terrifying. It was as if he could become an emperor equal to the heavens, just like his physical body. Roar! Long Daesung's thunderous roar startled the three-realm flower. It trembled violently like a startled rabbit. Its petals closed instantly, and flew toward the great universe. It seemed like it was about to escape. However, there was a terrifying power in the unseen world that was tugging at the three-realmed flower and fixing it in the void. This was a mystical flower bud that had been nurtured in the void. It wasn't in full bloom, but it shone with a hazy divine radiance. Thief, an extremely pure and holy woman appeared in an instant. In an instant, she was peerlessly terrifying. She surged with a peerless heavenly might that could swallow the past and present. Fairy, please wait. We can talk this out. Su Yan's heart trembled violently as he shouted loudly. He had to explain himself. This woman dared to berate even the supreme giant of the Chaos Sea. Her background was too great. It was likely that she was closely related to the master of the celestial court. This dreamlike, peerless beauty was truly annoyed. She had been disturbed twice in a row. She couldn't take it anymore. She raised her slender hand and pressed forward. It was like a curtain that covered the vast universe. It descended from the heavens and pressed down heavily on Su Yan. Chapter 2142. Long Daesong howled and fell to the ground with a plop. It, who had always been bold and powerful, had turned into a big fat cat. It was shivering. In front of this dreamlike woman, it couldn't summon the will to resist. This white hand that pressed down from the sky was boundlessly large. This was a substantial power that didn't exist in any laws or order, but it was enough to make Long Daesong breathless. This woman's physique was too domineering. Fairy, please show mercy. Su Yan's body and mind were about to split apart. He had no choice but to meet the fist head-on. His fist's seal glowed, and even his emperor physique was revived. This fist was incomparably fierce. However, just as Su Yan's fist seal smashed into the snow-white hand, Su Yan felt that he couldn't resist. His fist seal couldn't get close to this jade palm, but there was a majestic aura that caused the blood and chi in his body to tremble. It was as if his body was about to collapse. He was shocked. This was even more abnormal than his big brother. This woman's physique was too domineering. Roar! Su Yan let out a long roar. His black hair danced wildly, and his essence, chi, and spirit soared to the peak. In an instant, his body unleashed a heaven-defying power. It also rushed out of the laws of order that filled the sky, forming the order of scriptures. At this moment, Su Yan unleashed his most terrifying combat power. He reversed his emperor physique and crossed into the emperor equal to heaven's domain in a short period of time. He brandished his fist seal, causing the Tao of the nine heavens to resonate with it. Boom! The fist seal collided. It was as if heaven and earth had exploded, and this world was heading toward destruction. However, this place was no small matter. There was the order of the great path laws of the ancient celestial emperors, which suppressed this destructive wave. Crack! Su Yan's fist cracked. It was as if he had hammered Mount Eternal. The eerie white bones could be seen. It was completely rotten. His body was trembling, and blood spurted from his mouth and nose. The scene was a little too horrible to look at. This holy and unparalleled fairy's combat strength was really abnormal. Even when Su Yan suddenly unleashed his strongest emperor's physical strength, he still couldn't block her palm strength. What kind of existence was this? It was unimaginable. Oomph. The white-robed woman was flawless and flawless. Her snow-white skin shone with a divine luster. Her body was incomparably wonderful. Her eyes sputtered with immortal splendor. Once again, she raised her snow-white hand, wanting to strike towards Su Yan. Fairy, I didn't mean to offend you just now. We can sit down and talk. Su Yan shouted. The giant axe on his back shone brightly. Although this woman's combat strength was boundless, Su Yan's giant axe wasn't just for show. Now that his combat strength had increased by a level, he believed that he could block this holy fairy. The holy pure fairy's eyes stared at the giant axe on Su Yan's back, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Su Yan's heart skipped a beat. He had an ominous premonition. As expected, the holy pure fairy erupted. Her snow-white body rushed out with immortal splendor, illuminating heaven and earth. This immortal splendor quickly turned into an extremely terrifying order. One after another, they filled the universe. The holy pure fairy's temperament completely changed. She was powerful and peerless. She had a peerless aura that could shock the past, present, and future. Without a doubt, this woman was serious. Her combat prowess was too domineering. In an instant, she sealed the sky and earth, as if she had opened up a boundless world of fortune. Her own dignity was also supreme, as if she had transformed into a supreme empress. Su Yan's body trembled. He couldn't withstand this kind of power. It was as if a boundless sea was crashing over. He didn't even have the strength to swing the giant axe. What a terrifying woman. Su Yan felt a headache. He had never encountered such an invincible existence. He felt that this woman was a great giant on the same level as the white-robed empress of the unholy crafts sect. He immediately shouted, "I am the disciple of Tao, celestial emperor. Fairy, please have mercy." Nonsense. The woman was furious. Her eyes opened wide and became even more powerful in an instant. She was like a great creator from the past and present. Her angry rebuke caused Su Yan's body to tremble. Long Daesong screamed and fell in front of the holy pure fairy. Daesong was like a child without any power to resist. He had to admit that she was too terrifying. She was even more abnormal than his big brother. The holy pure fairy didn't believe Su Yan's identity at all. The scripture order he cultivated had nothing to do with Tao, celestial emperor. It was even deeply connected to Three-World Mountain. It's true. Su Yan suppressed the heaven-opening scripture. The origin scripture flowed in his body and immediately resonated with this great world. The holy pure fairy was surprised. Without the protection of the heaven-opening scripture, she observed Su Yan. Her immortal eyes seemed to have seen through Su Yan's origins. She saw the nine-colored heavenly embryo seizing the fortunes of heaven and earth. She's too powerful. Just what domain is she in? Su Yan clicked his tongue. The woman's cultivation was so profound that her heavenly eyes seemed to be able to see through the past, present, and future. Su Yan's entire being was seen through. The holy pure fairy was a bit strange. She was also a heavenly embryo. She didn't expect to meet someone with the same origin as her. This person had even cultivated part of Tao, celestial emperor's scripture. I seem to have remembered. Her eyes sputtered with brilliant, immortal radiance. Although a long time had passed, she had heard Tao, celestial emperor, mention this matter. A heavenly embryo that had been nurtured for a long time was deeply connected to the complicated struggles of the three realms. Awu, Long Daesong sensed the holy pure fairy's killing intent receding. It immediately got up and looked at the holy pure fairy with a fawning gaze. Long Daesong even spat out an ancient stone token that represented its status in the celestial court. This was given to it by the Black King. The holy pure fairy's expression completely eased. This token was enough to prove that Long Daesong's status in the celestial court was very high. This was given to it by the Black King. Only the most important members of the celestial court were qualified to receive it. Junior Su Yan greets the fairy. Su Yan stood up and cupped his hands. I accidentally entered this place and didn't expect to affect the blooming of the Three Realms flower. Fairy, please forgive me. Enough. The holy pure fairy nodded slightly and accepted Su Yan's apology. She also eased up and said softly, the Three Realms flower can continue blooming. It's not a big deal. May I ask if Fairy is a relative of Tao, celestial emperor? Su Yan asked solemnly. That's my elder brother. The Tao Saint Immortal had his hands behind his back. He was incomparably holy, and his snow-white body was covered in hazy, celestial radiance. He said softly, I'll stay here and be in charge of watching the passageway. This three-realm flower contains great fortune, and when it blooms, you all can come and watch the ceremony. Su Yan gasped. He finally understood her identity. Her background was too great. Legend had it that in ancient times, she was one of the most terrifying giants in the celestial court, second only to the celestial court master. As for the Three Realms flower, it had not fully matured. However, in its history of nurturing, it would bloom once every few years, blossoming with world-shaking Tao fruits. After all, it was a supreme substance cultivated by the law of order of the Three Realms. Since the collapse of the Three Realms Mountain, it was rumored that the Three Realms flower had disappeared. Back then, the Xian people's second ancestor paid a great price to cultivate a Three Realms flower. But unfortunately, it was only a half-finished product and was severely damaged. It cannot be compared to the real Three Realms flower. Passage? What passage? Suyin frowned and asked. Fairy, is this passage the final destination of Dao's celestial emperor before he left? The woman did not hide anything. She was guarding this place and was protected by the universe opened by Dao, celestial emperor. Even if word got out, no one would be able to break in. What was in the depths? Suyin could not see clearly. It was chaos. This was the passage that led to the outside of the Three Realms. Fairy, can you leave? Suyin did not have time to talk to her. She was extremely powerful. Once she entered the Three Realms battlefield, she would be of great importance to the Celestial Court. She might even be able to end the war early. No, Dao's Celestial Emperor shook her head. She was guarding this place and could not leave. Once something happened in this world, it might lead to uncontrollable changes. Suyin frowned. This was a huge matter. He could tell the severity of it. Suyin chose to leave. He and Long Daesung had become stronger. With the giant axe, they could kill more ancestral gods. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Dao's Celestial Emperor was surprised. Did something big happen outside? Suyin hesitated for a while and told her about the Three Realms battlefield. The Celestial Court and the Dark World were fighting fiercely. So that's what happened. Dao's Celestial Emperor hesitated for a while. She raised her hand and threw out a white jade ruby. It pressed down on the depths of the world. This was her life treasure. It could be considered a half-finished supreme, true treasure. It could replace her to guard this place for a while. She could leave for a while, but not for too long. This was to prevent a huge change from happening. After a long time, many forces had tried to tear through the sky. This place needed her protection. Awu, Long Daesung shouted happily. Once Dao's Celestial Emperor went out, the Celestial Court would welcome the strongest Empress. Currently, the Three Realms battlefield was in a stalemate. The two sides were facing each other. On one side, black fog was surging. The sky was collapsing. The black tide covered the sun, the moon, and the stars, turning into a bottomless abyss. It was like a grand purgatory. On the other side, 10,000 worlds appeared. The aura was getting more and more shocking. The sky was trembling, and the boundless world was shaking. Boom! The two environments were ready to collide at any moment. Just the collision of power alone was enough to create a destructive tide that filled the sky. Countless mountains and territories were silently annihilated, as if they had never existed, vanishing without a trace. The Dark World and the Celestial Court were facing each other. The war was about to break out. The Three Realms battlefield gradually stopped. The Celestial Court's battle intent was strong. They could mobilize their entire army with a single order. Now, the Three Realms Mountains domain was gradually declining. Something big must have happened. The Heavenly Force, Ancestor God, and the rest of the terrifying giants were at the forefront. A total of 20 of the strongest Ancestor Gods from the Dark World had come. But unfortunately, most of them were old and weak. They were no longer as powerful as they had been in their prime. Black King sneered. It seemed like the Dark World and the Celestial World had suffered heavy losses after thousands of years of war. The reason why he dared to attack here was because the Dark World had suffered heavy losses. The war had lasted for thousands of years. Now that they were attacked by the Celestial Court, the Dark World had suffered heavy losses. Celestial Court, you will also suffer heavy losses if you continue fighting. Tian, the Ancestral God, said coldly. Aren't you afraid that the Celestial World will stab you in the back? In the Celestial World's camp, there were 6 strongest emperors gathered here. They were all injured and looked cold. They had joined the war to kill to their heart's content. Now that this was mentioned, they all had complicated feelings. If the 3 emperors' clans don't know the big picture, I have my ways to keep them in check. Blackie said coldly, "A million years ago, you attacked the Celestial Court when we were not at home. Now, the Celestial Court wants to establish a sect in the Three Realms battlefield. Can't the Dark World agree to this small compensation?" Wishful thinking. One of the strongest ancestral gods from the Dark World said coldly, "The small Celestial Court has only developed for a few years. In front of the history of the Dark World, it is just a wave. How can the Dark World's foundation be guessed by people like you? You think you can rebuild the Celestial Court at the doorstep of the Dark World?" Peak. Chapter 2143. Blackie's huge body was dyed with blood, and he looked disdainful. More than half of the three-realm battlefield has fallen into the hands of the Celestial Court. Black King shouted coldly, "So what if your world has been around for a long time? The master of the Celestial Court didn't destroy the Dark World, but that doesn't mean he can't intimidate the Dark World with his own strength." An old ancestor god growled. In that era, the master of the Celestial Court had arrived at the Dark World and intimidated the world. A large number of the strongest ancestor gods have been severely injured and weakened. This was a cruel reality that had to be accepted and acknowledged. Otherwise, after the destruction of the human world, the Dark World would have launched an all-out attack tens of millions of years ago. The Celestial World wouldn't have been able to recuperate, and Suyin wouldn't have won 3 out of 3 battles in the Great War of Immortals and Demons. But everything was interrupted by the arrival of the master of the Celestial Court. The cause of the destruction of the 3 emperor families and 2 groups was naturally directly related to the master of the Celestial Court. The Dark World viewed those events as a great humiliation. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of the drum exploded and spread throughout the three-realm battlefield. It was deafening. This was the supreme war drum. The one who beat the heavenly drum was an ancestor god. He was burning with anger as he shouted, "Our Dark World is invincible in the 3 realms. When have we been forced to this step? You're just taking advantage of us. Also, how many strongest emperors can the Celestial Court produce?" The 3-realm battlefield was originally in the hands of the Dark World. However, the Celestial Court had conquered the vast territory after hundreds of years of fierce attacks. At this moment, Blackie directly told them that he wanted to rebuild the Celestial Court at the 3-realm mountain. How could the ancestor gods of the Dark World agree? The group of weakened, strongest ancestor gods were furious. They were filled with killing intent, as if they had crawled out from the purgatory of gods and demons. "Ha ha," Black King laughed. "Whatever you say, the Celestial Court will take over the 3-realm battlefield. If you know what's good for you, retreat. Otherwise, the Celestial Court's emperor equal to heaven will come. The Dark World won't be far from destruction." Black King naturally wouldn't look down on the Dark World that had existed for countless years. How long has the Celestial Court been established? In fact, in Big Brother's opinion, the 3 realms were in chaos, order had collapsed, and many terrifying big shots had met with mishaps. What if this was in the past? For example, in the human realm, human emperor, ancestor of earthly immortals, sect master of uncanny craftsmanship, and a series of terrifying giants. The sword ancestor would not be ranked in the 2nd echelon. In terms of history and the size of the previous masters, even with the return of the Monkey King and the others, the Celestial Court was naturally much weaker. After all, the Celestial Court's history of growth was too short. However, it was extremely glorious and produced a Tao, celestial emperor. Now that the Great Era had changed, the wheel of history would also undergo a major change. Who could say that the Tao Saint Immortals who had disappeared wouldn't rise to become existences comparable to the Earth immortal ancestors? The Big Brother roared, his eyes filled with terrifying killing intent. The 3 realms had to be unified. The Great Unification was the most important thing now. It was either the Dark World or the Celestial Court. The Celestial Realm was no longer qualified to fight for the Great Unification. Dominating the 3 realms battlefield was the first step of the Celestial Court strategy. The Celestial Court had to be rebuilt. Once the universe's environment was opened up, the core area of the 3 realms would be reorganized. It was of utmost importance. Wishful thinking. A huge ancestor god roared. Suddenly, his body became somewhat withered, but his fiendish aura surged. He was considerably powerful. A black beast king with dense black hair, the strongest ancestor god of the dark beast ancestor bloodline, laughed nastily. Do you think I don't know that the strongest group of the celestial court bloodline has fallen into the depths of the burial Emperor Vile Earth and will never be able to return? Hee hee. The leader of the celestial court's experts had a cold expression. This world surged with killing intent. We have to kill them or drive the celestial court out of here. A group of the strongest ancestor gods had a secret discussion. Something big must have happened in the Three Realms Mountain. As long as they could control the Three Realms Mountain, they might be able to reorganize the core area of the Three Realms. A long time ago, the Three Realms Mountain was the core of the Three Realms. Since the Three Realms Mountain, a life-forbidden zone, was infinitely weakened, the Dark World's strongest experts gave the order to launch an all-out attack at all costs. Once the Great Unification came, the Dark World would dominate the Three Realms and reorganize the environment. This indicated the arrival of the strongest era. Boom! In the blink of an eye, yet another three of the most powerful Elder Gods had arrived. This lineup was somewhat terrifying. The Dark World had gathered more than 20 strongest ancestor gods, and there might be more. In fact, the Dark Emperor's bloodline hadn't even shown up. The Black King knew that it would be very difficult to destroy the Dark World. The great changes in the Three Realms Mountain had exceeded his expectations. If the Dark World stopped them at all costs, this battle would be very difficult to win. This is a bit tricky. In fact, we can totally retreat. The Dark World can't do anything to the myriad worlds and the Celestial Court. The Immortal World's emperors had uncertain expressions as they conversed and discussed. The current situation was unfavorable to them. A group of aging ancestor gods had arrived, and they were even willing to give up on life and death. After all, in a battlefield world where they fought with their big brother, the chances of the weakened ancestor gods dying were very high. Now that the Dark World was willing to use such a trump card, the battle had become extremely difficult. Of course, this battle had also dealt a heavy blow to the Dark World's arrogance. The various armies from the Immortal World were especially eager to fight. In the thousands of years of bitter war, the Immortal World had few victories. However, in the past 100 years, the Dark World had been forced to retreat again and again. In this battle, they had shown their might and vented their grievances. Dong, dong, dong. Suddenly the world in the distance shone brightly, illuminating the Dark World. A prehistoric, ferocious beast charged out, emanating the unparalleled power of a 10 transformations true dragon. Long Daesung has cultivated to absolute emperor. For more than 100 years, Immortal Emperor Zong rode on Long Daesung and swept through the various battlefield worlds. He killed a large number of experts from the Dark World, and even killed Ancestor God Shinyu. This was an invincible combination that did not fear any experts on the battlefield. Long Daesung charged forward, and the figure on its back was filled with peerless dominance. Su Yan's figure was a little blurry, as if he had devoured all light. His aura was a little terrifying. He carried a huge axe on his back, and when his eyes opened, the void collapsed. His body vaguely released the most powerful emperor's aura. You're Immortal Emperor Zong, the one who killed my son, Su Yan. The strongest ancestor god of the Dark Beast King clan roared furiously. Although it had declined and did not have the combat strength of its heyday. Once it went berserk, the heavens collapsed, the earth cracked, gods wept, and the heavens exploded. It emanated a supreme pressure, and its ferocious aura shook the ages. When it was young, it was an invincible war beast, second only to experts like Ancestor God Tianli. Now, it was also peerless and terrifying. Its eyes were like an eternal abyss that could swallow all life in the universe. You have a problem with that? You can raise it. Su Yan cast a sidelong glance at the Ancestor God King beast, and his eyes were like lightning. The ancestor god King Beast was furious. It was an expert, but Su Yin, who had only recently matured, dared to be disrespectful and rude to it. It admitted that Su Yin was strong, but this person was not qualified to talk to it as an equal. Immortal Emperor Zong, what happened in the Three-World Mountain? The experts of the Dark World questioned. It seemed that Su Yan's combat strength had also improved. Could it be that Su Yan had obtained a great fortune? It's not a big deal. Immortal Emperor Zong said coldly. It's just that the master of the Celestial Court suppressed the Three-World Mountain. In the future, the Three-World Mountain will be the most precious holy land of the Celestial Court. We will rebuild the Celestial Court with this as the core. I'm here to tell you to leave quickly. Don't delay the important matter. As soon as he said that, the ancestral gods of the world felt an inexplicable chill in their hearts. The title of the master of the Celestial Court had a demonic nature. It suppressed the king race of the dark world to the point of suffocation. It was like the prestige of a supreme heavenly emperor that had collapsed for eternity. It wanted to cross the river of history and suppress the dark world once again. The Celestial Court's army was in chaos. Su Yan's words made their hearts tremble. Was it true? Junior, you are full of nonsense. The ancestor god King Beast said in disdain. The master of the Celestial Court is still alive. You said that he suppressed the Three-World Mountain. Do you have any evidence? Scram if you are afraid. Su Yin said in disdain. Why are you asking so much? You will know the truth soon. Dao, Saint Immortal asked him to buy some time, and Su Yin did as he was told. Immortal Emperor Zong, King Beast Ancestor God, raised his head and roared, causing the entire world to tremble. His eyes were filled with endless killing intent that tore apart the world and caused a space-time storm. He roared, a mere imperial monarch Juadon can kill you as easily as plucking grass. What? Did the ancestral gods of the dark world grow up bragging? Immortal Emperor Zong sneered. He stood in front of the Celestial Court's army like a heaven-splitting demon god. Boom! The ancestor god King Beast took a step forward. The sea of stars exploded. There was no doubt that he was terrifying. The black hair on his body fluttered. In an instant, it was like millions of black waterfalls that covered the sky and pressed down on Su Yin. Don't be careless. An ancestral god reminded. Shin Yu ancestor god was killed. You want to kill me with just a few strands of hair? Su Yin felt disdain. What's the big deal about killing a small fry? Do I need to use my full strength? Without the world-exterminating battle axe, what are you in my eyes? Kill! The ancestor god King Beast's hair suddenly ignited. Boundless dark great Tao sputtered and rushed out of the supreme law order. It tore the sky apart, and a storm arrived in an instant. Boom! The black whirlwind that filled the sky whined and cut through time and space. A dark long blade appeared in it. The world was cut open. The black long blade was huge and cut through the great Tao of the heavens. It was the strongest treasure of the Dark King Beast lineage. Countless immortal treasures were smelted and refined by the ancestor god King Beasts. It was almost a semi-finished supreme treasure. Slash! With a supreme attack, the dark long blade was drawn. It was as if it was going to cut through the past, present, and future. Boom! The long Daesong rose from the ground and carried Su Yin. One man and one horse dominated the world. The aura they emitted blended together. Their combat power soared. 10 dragons revolved around Su Yan's body, making him look like a real dragon emperor. The huge axe was drawn. Its sharpness was unparalleled. In an instant, it blocked the black long blade that was descending from the sky. The great Tao of the heavens and earth collapsed. The space-time was heading toward destruction. The long blade split the sky and collided with the huge axe. Su Yan's arm didn't move at all. Boom! In an instant, the dark wind that filled the sky swept over, forming a wind of death that howled and drowned the destroyed world. Roar! The long Daesong roared. Its flesh shell burned and drowned Su Yin. At this moment, its aura and Su Yan's aura blended together. Billions of layers of qi and blood seeped out. Kill! Su Yan roared and waved his fist. His aura swallowed the river of time and collapsed the world of death. His chi and blood were extremely dense. His imperial body was so powerful that it was about to close in on the strongest great emperor. Rip! The ancestor god king beast raised its claws. The rules and order surged. This attack destroyed the sun, moon, and stars and rushed towards Su Yan's body. However, under the shocked gazes of everyone present, one man and one horse, dominating the world and charging forward bravely, the long Daesong's golden hooves trampled forward. Carrying Su Yan, it crashed violently. Crazy. Some people thought that immortal Emperor Zong was crazy. The ancestor god king beast was different from the ancestor god feather. Now Su Yan waved his fist and smashed toward the ancestor god king beast. A great emperor had to rely on the strongest to threaten the strongest ancestor god. However, Su Yan didn't. His fist exploded and met the ancestor god king beast's claws.